Chapter 984. It's very simple. We just need to perform dual cultivation. I'll tell you what to do later. Follow me. Xiaochen took Linger's hand and led her to the bed. Then he explained the steps of dual cultivation to her. In the beginning, Linger was still a little shy. Although she and Xiaochen had sex, they hadn't seen each other for a long time, so she was still a little shy. She had been very careful and not used to it. Xiaochen smiled and didn't expose her. Instead, he took the initiative to chat with Linger. On the one hand, he wanted to distract her and make her more relaxed. On the other hand, he wanted to know why Zhuofifen needed so many spirit jades. However, what surprised Xiaochen was that Linger didn't know anything about the inside story of the spirit jades. After thinking for a while, Xiaochen guessed that the Yingyun sect deliberately hid the truth from her and Grandma Nanshan in order not to alert the enemy. They were doing everything behind their backs. Guessing this, Xiaochen didn't ask any more questions. Seeing that Linger's mood had relaxed, he began to concentrate on the dual cultivation. Smiling Mithriya crawled back to his residence, packed his luggage, called his disciples, and left the Green Rock sect quietly in the dark. Since Linger had helped Xiaochen this time, Smiling Mithriya was relieved. When Xiaochen saw Linger, it was as if he had been holding back his hunger for several years. He didn't know what the girls around him were. Were they all his sisters? However, Smiling Mithriya was too lazy to think so much. Anyway, Xiaochen and Linger must be doing that, so they didn't have the time to care about him. So he took his disciples and directly escaped from the main gate, running to the foot of the mountain. Finally, they arrived at the foot of Green Rock Mountain. Seeing the minibus parked on the side, Smiling Mithriya took a long breath. He was glad that he had finally succeeded in escaping from Xiaochen's clutches. In the future, even if he had 800 times more courage, he would never want to meet Xiaochen again. Oh, you're running pretty fast, huh? If I didn't have my flying sword, I'm afraid this young master wouldn't be able to catch up to you. Smiling Mithriya was still secretly rejoicing. Unexpectedly, a nightmarish voice suddenly sounded. Xiaochen directly descended from the sky and grabbed his neck. His fingers squeezed slightly. Ah, it hurts so much. Cough cough. Great hero Xiaochen, please spare my life. I just brought my men out to hunt some wild animals, look at the scenery, breathe in the fresh air, and move my muscles. I didn't want to run away. The Smiling Mithriya screamed and was scared out of his wits. He tried to explain. While explaining, the Smiling Mithriya grimaced in pain. Xiaochen's hand was like an iron hoop that was strangling his neck. He felt that if he used a little more strength, his cervical vertebrae would be broken. Xiaochen slightly loosened his grip, but he still firmly grabbed the Smiling Mithriya's neck. After promoting Ling to the level of a martial general through dual cultivation, he let her rest in the room for a while. He planned to find the Smiling Mithriya for information, but he found that the kid had slipped away. Xiaochen quickly rode on his flying sword and chased after him. In the end, he saw the Smiling Mithriya and his men resting at the foot of the mountain. He did not waste any time and directly went up to him to grab his neck. All right, don't play the coward in front of me. Hurry up and tell me why you came to the Greenstone faction, and why does the Yingyun sect need so many spiritual jades? Xiaochen was too lazy to talk nonsense with the Smiling Mithriya, so he said directly, maybe I'll let you go because your knife-shaved noodles are delicious. Otherwise, I'll take you to the top of the mountain to enjoy the scenery. Do you believe me? The air at the top of the mountain is very fresh. So, great hero Xiaochen, I really came here to help Zhuofifen get the spiritual jades. I have no other purpose. As for what the Yingyun sect needs them for, I really don't know. The Smiling Mithriya said tremblingly. Although he was so scared that he almost wet his pants, he still did not dare to tell the truth, for fear that Zhuofifen would send people to kill him as soon as he returned. Are you sure you don't know? Xiaochen's tone was dangerous and he squinted his eyes and asked again. The Smiling Mithriya said with a sad face, Great hero Xiaochen, everything I said is true. Just treat me like a fart and let me go. Motherf *Ker, I think you won't shed a tear until you see the coffin. Xiaochen snorted coldly, grabbed the Smiling Mithriya and jumped on the flying sword. He flew directly to the sky more than 2,000 meters high and said slowly, Enjoy the scenery here. I'll give you one more chance. If you still refuse to tell me, I'll let you perform a flying noodle shaving in the air. It'll be very spectacular. The Smiling Mithriya was lifted by Xiaochen, and his feet were in the air. He looked around only to see misty clouds and a dark night sky. He could not see anything else. He was so scared that he screamed and his soul almost flew away. Hurry up. I'll give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2. Xiaochen began to count. The smiling Mithria was about to confess, but on second thought, he knew that Xiao Chen was so eager to know Zhuo Fifan's purpose that he would not let him go easily. He was just trying to scare him, so he gritted his teeth and said, "I really don't know. How could Zhuo Fifan tell me so much? I just... 1-0. Xiao Chen had already lost his patience. Seeing the smiling Mithria still dared to beat around the bush, he directly loosened his hand and threw him straight down from the sky. Help! Help! The smiling Mithria's ears were filled with the whistling sound of the wind. He was immediately frightened and shouted loudly. A friendly reminder. You're still 1,500 meters away from the ground. You'll be able to land smoothly in no time. Please fasten your seatbelt. If you don't, please be prepared to have your face smashed into the ground, Xiao Chen said slowly as he followed the smiling Mithria on his flying sword. Master Xiao Chen, help. Help me. The smiling Mithria danced in the air, trying to catch Xiao Chen's flying sword, but because his hands were too short, he could not reach it. I'll remind you again. You're only 800 meters away from the ground. 700 meters. 600 meters. Xiao Chen picked his ears in boredom. He ignored the smiling Mithria's cry for help and continued counting down. I'll tell you. I'll tell you. I'll tell you everything. Please help me. I promise I won't lie to you anymore, sob sob sob. The smiling Mithria saw the ground getting closer and closer in his eyes. Finally he could not help shouting loudly. His tears and snot were floating in the air. Now he could not care so much. He just wanted to save his life first. That's more like it. What were you doing earlier? Just when the bald head of the smiling Mithria was about to touch the ground, Xiao Chen reached out, grabbed his calf and then threw him to the ground. Chapter 985. The smiling Mithria had not come to himself yet. He was panting in fear. His face was covered with tears and snot, which made him look very embarrassed. Xiao Chen looked at him and said calmly, "Tell me now. If I find out that you still dare to lie, I will take you up there to play flying noodles again for free. But I can't guarantee that I will be able to catch you next time." Zhuo Fifan wants those spiritual jades to open the venerable mysterious land of the inner martial arts world. The venerable mysterious land is prepared for martial kings and demon kings to become venerables. Every sect decides how many disciples can enter according to the amount of spiritual jades they contribute. The smiling Mithria did not dare to hesitate. He told Suke everything he knew. Why did you come to the Green Rock sect to rob the spiritual jades? Xiao Chen asked coldly. Wiping the tears and snot off his face, the smiling Mithria said cautiously, the Yinyun sect doesn't have many spiritual jades. They heard that the Green Rock sect has found a spiritual jade mine, so they sent me to rob it? That's all? Xiao Chen squinted at the smiling Mithria and continued to ask, where is the entrance to the venerable mysterious land? How many spiritual jades do I need to pay for one person to enter? Are there any traps or anything like that? I really don't know about that. I'm just a small fry in the outer martial arts world. I'm just running errands for Zhuo Fifan. I don't have access to the core secrets. Even if I successfully rob the spiritual jades, I won't be able to enter the venerable mysterious land. The smiling Mithria said bitterly. Xiao Chen felt that the smiling Mithria was telling the truth this time. However, he did not let him go immediately. Instead, he remained silent. He suddenly thought of the sky jade mine of the Jia family. Could it be that it was also prepared for the opening of the venerable mysterious land? Hero Xiao Chen, I beg you to let me off. I was also forced into a corner. Even what I said just now was something that I managed to find out with great difficulty a few days ago. Seeing that Xiao Chen did not say anything, the smiling Mithria's heart was pounding. He felt that this trip was not worth it. Not only did he not get any benefits, but he also almost lost his life. I believe you. Seeing that your knife-shaved noodles are quite delicious, I won't kill you. In the future, when I become successful and return to the city, you can go sell breakfast with me. Xiao Chen pulled smiling Mithria up, patted him on the shoulder and said with a smile, you can go now. I'll let you know when my breakfast stall opens for business. All right. Thank you, Hero Xiao Chen, for not killing me. I'll take my leave now. The smiling Mithria was so moved that he almost cried. He nodded repeatedly and thanked Xiao Chen. When he saw that Xiao Chen had no other orders, he ran away with his subordinates. After returning to the place where the minibus was parked, smiling Mithria called Zhuo Fifan and reported the current situation to him. He told Zhuo Fifan that Linger had hooked up with Xiao Chen, but they had just succeeded, so they didn't know whether it would work or not. Zhuo Fifan had already escaped, so he could only rely on her. In the end, smiling Mithria naturally concealed the matter of informant. His life had just been saved, so if he told Zhuo Fifan about it, he would be in danger again. Zhuo Fifan understood the situation, but he didn't say anything special. He just promised to give smiling Mithria some compensation and then hung up the phone. First, since smiling Mithria had escaped, Zhuo Fifan couldn't talk to him anymore. Second, Zhuo Fifan didn't have much hope for Linger. Although the forging materials he got before were reliable, the spiritual jades didn't belong to Shao Chen, but to Green Rock faction, so it would be difficult to get them. After putting down the phone, Zhuo Fifan was extremely upset. This time he really suffered a double loss. He didn't get the spiritual jades, but he also lost 3 masters. Shao Chen let smiling Mithria go and returned to Green Rock faction. When he opened the door, Linger was already dressed and sitting there. Seeing Shao Chen coming back, she quickly stood up with a blush on her cheeks and whispered, "You're back? I just adjusted my breath and found that I've been promoted to a general. What the hell is going on?" Hehe, this is the benefit of dual cultivation. In the future, I will often take you to practice with me, and your strength will also rise. Shao Chen laughed, took her hand and walked out. "Let's go, I'll introduce you to the others and they will all be your friends in the future." Shao Chen dragged Linger to the guest room. As expected, other than Jia Muzin who was not present, the other 3 ladies were chatting away. Although their ways of doing things were very different, they were all young ladies in their teens and 20s, so they got along very well when they chatted. "You haven't slept yet, have you? Let me introduce you, this is Miss Linger of the Yin faction. I met her during the process of carrying out the task at that time." Shao Chen walked over casually, introduced Linger, and then briefly described the process of meeting her. All the girls looked at Linger curiously. Although Shao Chen didn't explain the situation in detail at this time, Linger's face was blushing, so their relationship was probably not ordinary. The first time she saw Linger, Ling Qianxue was stunned. She felt so familiar. She looked so similar to her younger sister Qianxue from Japan. Linger didn't notice the change in Ling Qianxue. She just obediently followed beside Shao Chen, and politely greeted everyone. Cheng Minjing secretly frowned. She first kindly introduced herself to Linger, and then when she wasn't paying attention, she unhappily glared at Shao Chen. Due to the large number of people present, she didn't scold Shao Chen. She more or less gave him some face or else she would seem too petty. Although Cheng Minjing was unhappy, she endured it. After all, at the end of the day, it was because she didn't see that Shao Chen had potential. If she had been with him when he was still a useless person, then there probably wouldn't have been such a mess later on. Now she could only accept it. Cheng Minjing learned to comfort herself. After all, Shao Chen wasn't the kind of playboy who would deliberately have a foot in 2 boats. After all, the women who followed him didn't have bad intentions, so it was more or less understandable. He also wouldn't dump them after he was done with them. Compared to those scumbags, he was much better. Haha, that's great. Sister Sour Sour has finally met someone younger than me. Tian Sour shook Linger's hand in high spirits, and proudly patted her shoulder. "You're Linger, right? Remember, from now on, I'm the 1st branch. Oh no, the 3rd branch. That doesn't seem right. Anyway, I'm Auntie X and your X1's little wife. You have to listen to me, okay?" Tian Sour originally wanted to say the 1st branch, but seeing that Cheng Minjing was standing at the side, he quickly changed his words. Linger opened her mouth but didn't say anything for a long time. She really didn't know what to say. Chapter 986. Linger, ignore that greedy girl. She just likes to take advantage of you verbally. She doesn't have any bad intentions. Ling Qianxue stood up and walked over to hold Linger's hand. She smiled and said, "Hello, my name is Ling Qianxue. Have you heard of my name before?" Just now, Ling Qianxue had been observing Linger's appearance. The more she looked, the more familiar she felt. Although Linger's appearance and temperament were very different from her sister Qianxue, Ling Qianxue could still find similarities between them. "Hello, Ling Qianxue." Linger repeated Ling Qianxue's name. She felt as if she had heard it somewhere before, but she couldn't remember. She could only shake her head helplessly. "Sorry, I don't remember. Then do you know your own background?" Ling Qianxue saw that Linger was a little surprised and said in a gentle tone, "Don't think too much. Since you are Shao Chen's friend, you are also our friend. I might know some things about your background." "Ah, really?" Linger was shocked. She turned to look at Shao Chen for help. When she saw Shao Chen nod, she gathered her courage and said, "Actually, I don't know much about my background. I only know that I have a grandfather who works in a secret organization. I also have a sister. As for the rest, I don't know." This information was all told to her by Linger's master, Granny Nanshan. However, she had only unintentionally revealed some information and didn't go into detail. Thus Linger didn't know much. Ling Qianxue was shocked. She knew that she had found the right person this time. Linger was the Japanese girl that was switched by the Sakura group. At this moment, everyone's hearts were filled with mixed feelings. They didn't expect to find the person that everyone had been guessing for so long was Linger. You guys, what's wrong? Is there a problem with my background? Linger realized that everyone was silent and had different expressions. She felt a little uneasy. Let me explain. Your grandfather is called Ling Tian, but in reality he isn't your biological grandfather. Your real identity is Japanese. Your parents are researchers working for the Sakura group. You do have a sister, but her name is Ling Qianxue. Ling Qianxue tried to explain as simply as possible. What do you mean? Ling was confused by the huge amount of information. Actually, I'm Ling Tian's granddaughter. However, when I was young I was sent to the Yin Yun sect. You and I were secretly swapped by the Cherry Blossom group. You went to the Yin Yun sect and became their disciple, while I was sent to Japan, Ling Qianxue explained patiently. How is this possible? Ling mumbled to herself for a while before asking suspiciously, then why are you also called by this name? You and my sister have the same name? Or are you my sister? Ling Qianxue said, this is another matter. At that time, in order to protect Qianxue, I replaced her and joined the Sakura group, so I used her name. But I've never heard of this at all. Ling was really confused this time. Why did the Sakura group do this? What's in it for them? Ling Qianxue said calmly, the Sakura group wanted to plant a chess piece in the sects of the inner martial arts world. It will definitely be useful in the future. Ling didn't say anything for a long time. She was really too shocked. She had been cultivating in the Yin Yun sect since she was young and then became a disciple of Granny Nanshan. She originally didn't know much about her background. Now that such a complicated relationship had suddenly appeared, she really couldn't digest it for a while. However, looking at Ling Qianxue's expression, it didn't seem like she was lying, so she didn't say anything for a long time. You don't have to be too nervous. We can go do a DNA test. You'll understand when the time comes. Ling Qianxue felt that Linger's shocked reaction was very normal. When Yorishima Kikuo told her about her true identity, she also found it hard to accept. Ling Qianxue didn't lie. Her DNA test was personally done by Chief Ling, and it was repeatedly tested several times. There's definitely no mistake. Xiaoqun gently patted Linger's shoulder and comforted her softly. After a while Linger finally calmed down a little and asked, so, my biological sister is actually that island country's Ling Qianxue? Yes, but I heard that she also came to the Dixia kingdom. I don't know where she is now. Ling Qianxue nodded and said, I don't know if you've heard of Ling Qianyu's name. Actually, I'm her biological sister. Ling Qianyu? I've heard Granny mention her before. Ling sighed melancholically. Unfortunately, I've only heard of her and have never met her. There's a chance I really want to meet both of them. Ling never thought that her life would be so complicated. If she didn't meet Xiaoqun and Ling Qianxue, she would probably be kept in the dark for the rest of her life. Actually, just hearing Ling Qianxue's words, Ling still found it a little hard to accept. However, she trusted Xiaoqun. If Xiaoqun said it was like this, then it must be like this. Thus, Linger's heart was slightly shaken. She really wanted to meet her biological sister Ling Qianxue and fake sister Ling Qianyu as soon as possible. It would be best if she could find Ling Tian as well. Only then would she be able to understand everything. You don't have to be too anxious. Since the Sakura group has made such an arrangement, they must have a backup plan. Let's be a little more patient. It's better to stay calm and deal with all the changes. Xiaoqun thought for a while and spoke up to stop Linger. It wasn't that he didn't want Linger to reunite with her family as soon as possible, but he felt that there was something strange about this matter. That group of people from the Sakura group, with Yorishima Kikuo as an example, although they weren't very strong, they were good at scheming and scheming. Xiaoqun felt that if they acted rashly, it might have the opposite effect. They might as well wait for them to find Linger and walk into the trap of their own accord. It wouldn't be too late to find out their motive then. All right, I'll listen to you. Linger knew what Xiaoqun meant, so she immediately agreed. However, she was still at a loss for what to do in the face of such a sudden change. She sat there and chatted idly. There were a few times when she was lost in thought. She didn't even respond when others called her. Seeing that Linger was distracted, Xiaoqun stopped chatting and called out to the girls to cultivate. Due to Linger's addition, The original 4th cultivator of true virtue had been promoted to 5th cultivator of true virtue. The bed in the room wasn't big enough, so they sat on the floor and cultivated without any hindrance. After cultivating for half the night, everyone stopped to rest. After checking their cultivation, they discovered that the 4 girls were advancing at an extremely fast speed. However, Xiaochen was very upset because his own cultivation speed had slowed down again. Chapter 987. He pondered for a moment and realized that there seemed to be only one reason. The first time a girl used dual cultivation, they would level up faster. After that, the effect would not be as obvious. What was going on? Unable to think of an answer, Xiaochen gave up. Seeing that Linger was still in a daze, he gave Ling Qinxue a look and pulled her over for a hug. Ling Qinxue understood Xiaochen's look. At first she was a little embarrassed, but seeing Linger's pitiful look, she felt a little sorry for her and moved closer. The Ling sisters, who had a complicated relationship, were a little shy at first, but then they relaxed and the room was full of charm. Cheng Minjing originally planned to meditate at the side, but after listening for a while she finally could not take it anymore. She pulled Tian Souring, whose face was as red as an apple, put on their clothes and went out for some fresh air. Along the way, Cheng Minjing pouted and kept kicking the stones on the ground with her head down. She kept humming like a little pig. "Sister Minjing, just now, why didn't you join in? Don't you like to do that with Xiaochen?" Tian Souring couldn't help but ask after enduring for a while. She was a little depressed. Just now she was teased by Xiaochen and the Ling sisters. She wanted to take the opportunity to join in, but just as she was about to pounce on him, Cheng Minjing pulled her away. "TSK, I don't want that. If you want to join, then join." "What a mess, what's this?" Cheng Minjing glared at Tian Souring. It wasn't that she didn't want something to happen with Xiaochen, but she couldn't let go in front of so many people. She felt that she was different from others. She was Xiaochen's official fiancée. Even if she gave herself up, it had to be under the premise that the two of them were in a romantic atmosphere. How could she roll in the sheets with a bunch of people? Really? Can Sister Souring go? Tian Suruan immediately stopped and blurted out in surprise. He secretly licked his lips and wanted to turn around and run back, but he felt a little conflicted. In fact, apart from watching a few movies, she had no experience in this aspect. However, in the past she had pretended to know everything in front of Xiaochen. If she went just like that, what if Xiaochen laughed at her? Looking at Tian Suruan's surprised and excited look, Cheng Minjing, who was originally angry, was amused. She rolled her eyes at her and said, "If you want to go, then go. Why are you asking me? Anyway, I'm not going." This. Tian Wangchuan struggled in his heart. He wanted to go, but he was too embarrassed to do so. He paced in place for more than 30 times and hesitated for a long time. In the end, he still didn't take that step. At the side, Cheng Minjing could see that Tian Wangchuan was similar to herself. They were both cowards who had evil intentions but no guts. She couldn't help but feel angry and amused. She simply dragged her to continue walking around the Green Rock sect. The next morning, Xiaochen went to find Gu Chongyi and Jing Xinxiang in high spirits to say goodbye. He and his group had rested in the Green Rock sect for some time and the problems had been solved. He also wanted to go to the Heavenly Jade Mine as soon as possible. When saying goodbye, Xiaochen specially asked Jing Xinxiang and Gu Chongyi. In the end, both of them didn't know where the entrance to the inner martial arts world was. However, Xiaochen didn't take it to heart. In any case, Jia Muzhen and Ling both came from the inner martial arts world. They definitely knew the way. Therefore, he left the Green Rock sect confidently and set off for the inner martial arts world according to Jia Muzhen's directions. After crossing the Green Rock Mountain, the road ahead gradually became more difficult to walk. The group walked for 2 days, passed through a primeval forest, and finally arrived at a valley. The valley was shrouded in thick fog for a long time. The satellite map couldn't detect the environment here at all. After a few steps, they would be surrounded by fog. Even if they held hands, they couldn't see each other clearly. There was no signal on their mobile phones, so the visibility was extremely low. Xiaochen and Cheng Minjing were fine with it. Both of them were cultivators. As long as they released their divine sense, they would be able to see everything clearly. However, it was not the case for the others. They could only be careful and walk on the mountain path where the visibility was less than 3 meters like blind people. There were a few times when Tian Wangchuan missed a step and almost fell. Fortunately, Xiaochen was quick to catch her. "Oh my, what the hell is this place? Sister Wangchuan's legs are about to break from walking. How much longer will it take to reach the inner martial arts world?" Tian Wangchuan couldn't help but complain after she slipped again. Although her strength had improved after this period of dual cultivation and she was no longer the rookie martial artist level 1, she couldn't keep up with the stamina of Xiao Chen and the others. In this kind of environment she didn't dare to go on a rampage. She had long been stifled. Everyone take a break and eat something to replenish your energy. Xiao Chen squinted his eyes and looked into the distance. He discovered that there were 2 forks in the road ahead. He didn't know which one to take, so he turned around and asked Jia Musen, "Musen, take a look. There are 2 roads over there. Which one leads to the Jia clan?" Jia Musen took 2 steps forward and looked carefully. He was a little dumbfounded. He scratched his head and said, "I don't know. Previously when I came out I was accompanied by an elder. However, when I wanted to go back in I didn't know how to go. Moreover, I've been living in the secular world all these years. I've never thought of returning to the Jia clan, so my memory is even more unclear." "Is that so? It's okay. Fortunately, I brought a substitute." Xiao Chen didn't care too much. He gestured to Ling and gave her an introduction. "Student Ling, please make your entrance." Dang 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 dang. Since Ling had been to the secular world several times, she definitely knew the way. Xiao Chen felt that his decision to bring Ling along was very wise. That our cloud-attracting sect doesn't enter the inner martial arts world from here. We have a special passage for the inner martial arts world. We go in and out by sea, Ling said weakly as she blinked her eyes. Every time she came out of the inner martial arts world, she would follow Granny Nanshan or the martial uncles from the sect on a boat. She had never traveled by land. Previously, she thought that Xiao Chen knew the way, so she followed him obediently. She didn't expect him to have designs on her. Then how far will it take if we go back the way we came and change to the sea? Xiao Chen was stunned. He originally thought that with 2 people from the inner martial arts world leading the way it would be foolproof. He didn't expect it to be so troublesome. What a scam. The distance isn't a problem. The main problem is that we don't have a boat. Ling said innocently. Moreover, even if we get a boat, I don't know where to go. Linger's cheeks were a little red. When they took the boat out of the inner martial arts world, she was focused on cultivating and didn't pay attention to the direction the boat was going. Therefore she was also confused at this time. Xiao Chen was speechless. He looked at the 2 forks in the road and was worried. Although he could see the situation behind the fog with his divine sense, he didn't dare to walk around recklessly. If he led so many people and went to the wrong place, it would be a big problem. Chapter 988. After thinking for a long time, Xiao Chen decided to set up camp in the same place. Since this was the only way to the inner martial arts world, there must be people going in and out of the inner martial arts world passing by. He could just ask them when the time came. After the plan was made, Xiao Chen took Jia Musen to collect some wood and temporarily built 2 simple wooden houses by the roadside. Cheng Menjing took the others to collect firewood and some game as ingredients for dinner. They settled down in front of the fork in the road. Although the valley was very foggy, there were no wild beasts or strange insects. The temperature was very suitable. They lived a happy and harmonious life. The only regret was that Jia Musen was there. Xiao Chen was embarrassed to let him stay in a house alone, so he had to stay with him. The girls stayed in another house, which was not convenient for double cultivation. Just like that, they waited for about 2 days. Finally, a figure pushed through the layers of fog and came over. At this moment, Xiao Chen and the others were chatting aimlessly outside the wooden house when they saw 3 men dressed like martial artists walking over. The young man in the lead was a little surprised to see Xiao Chen and the others. He did not expect that someone would arrive earlier than them. The young man glanced at Xiao Chen and the others, took a few steps forward and asked calmly, "Little brother, have you also received the joint invitation from the Inner Martial Arts World families to participate in the Inner Martial Arts World Trial?" Xiao Chen was stunned. The Inner Martial Arts World Trial? What was that? Turning his head to glance at Jia Musen and Linger, Xiao Chen wanted to ask them, but they were also confused. Seeing this, Xiao Chen knew that he could not count on them, so he answered calmly, "Well, we are from the Green Rock sect, but I only know that there is such a thing. I don't know the content of the trial. Do you know what we are going to do?" While probing ambiguously, Xiao Chen thought quickly. The first thing he thought of was that it must be related to the Venerable Secret Realm. But, wasn't this place a secret? Was it open to the outside martial arts world? So it's a friend from Green Rock faction. In fact, it's a trial jointly organized by a few big families in the inner martial arts world. Through the Warriors Guild, they've sent out an invitation to the outside world to recruit cultivators from the outer martial arts world and the secular world. They're asking everyone to go to the trial's mine to collect some spirit jades. Then, based on the number of spirit jades collected, after the trial is completed, they can use it to exchange for generous rewards. The young man explained the contents of the trial. However, he was a little puzzled. Since these people were from the Green Rock faction, how could they not know the contents of the trial? However, when he thought about it, the Green Rock sect was just a small sect. It was normal for them to not be well informed. I see. Xiao Chen was a little surprised, but on the surface he still smiled and teased. Hee, I wonder which family has the courage to join hands to organize such a grand trial. What other families could there be? Isn't it just the Jia clan, the Tang clan, and the Yu clan? I heard that this trial was initiated by the Jia clan. Big families are really bold. It's only been a few days and there are already hundreds of people signing up. The young man sighed sincerely. The eyes of Cheng Menjing, Ling Chenxue, and the others quietly drifted towards Jia Muzhen. They saw that his face was as red as if it had been burned by fire. He cursed softly, too despicable. They don't even let the cultivators of the secular world go. How could Jia Muzhen still not understand when he had already said this much? This was because the Tianyu mine did not have enough manpower to mine, and they were frantically looking for workers to do hard labor. They even called it a trial mission, but in fact it was cheap labor. Xiao Chen could tell that Jia Muzhen was a little embarrassed. He reached out and patted Jia Muzhen's shoulder to comfort him. He said to the young man, "That's right. Our sect leader said the same thing. The few of you are going to the Heavenly Jade Mine, right?" "Yes. This is the place. So you guys know. You made me waste so much effort to explain." "Really?" The young man was a little unhappy. What kind of person was this, wasting his saliva? In fact, I came in a hurry. I only remembered that I was going to the Tianyu mine. I didn't have time to listen to the specific details, so I left in a hurry. When I remembered, I was too embarrassed to go back and ask the sect leader. "Thank you, brother." Xiao Chen laughed a few times and pretended to be embarrassed. The young man did not take it to heart. He casually made a sound of agreement. He thought that this person was too muddle-headed. He dared to participate in the trial without asking clearly about the situation. He was not afraid of death. "Since we are going the same way, let's go together?" Xiao Chen asked. Now that there was someone who knew the situation, as long as he followed him, he could enter the inner martial arts world. "Well, okay." The young man nodded absent-mindedly. Seeing Xiao Chen's slow-witted look, he guessed that he was a rather careless and impatient person, so he didn't take it too seriously. He found a relatively clean rock by the side of the road and sat down. Xiao Chen took a few steps forward with the others in high spirits. When he turned his head, he found that the three people did not follow him at all. They were sitting on the side and resting. Xiao Chen was a little puzzled. He turned his head and asked, "Why don't you go? It's still early. We should hurry on our way." "What way?" "Just gather here. Then wait for the people of the inner martial arts world to come out and support us." The young man looked at Xiao Chen in surprise. He felt that this guy was a little stupid. They had already arrived at the gathering place. Where was he going? This person's brain was too bad. When they arrived at the inner martial arts world, they should go their own way, so that they would not be dragged down again. Look at my memory." Xiao Chen slapped his forehead and hurriedly walked back with a thick face. He looked around awkwardly and his forehead was a little sweaty. Cheng Menjing rolled her eyes at Xiao Chen. This guy usually liked to play tricks and boasted that his intelligence was unparalleled. She did not expect that there would be a day when he would fail miserably in an easy task. Fortunately, the other party did not see through it. Otherwise, if he was really suspected, he would be exposed with just a few words. Ling Chenxue, Tian Suruan, and Jia Muzhen looked at each other. Everyone's facial expressions were a little unnatural. They could not help but want to laugh, but they did not dare to really laugh. Their faces were almost twisted from holding back their laughter. The young man did not notice. He had already turned his face away, no longer paying attention to Xiao Chen. Anyway, he had made up his mind not to team up with this guy, so he did not want to see him act stupid anymore. Time passed quickly and more people came from all over the place to gather. The wooden houses that imitated Xiao Chen's construction almost filled the entire valley. Among the people who arrived, Xiao Chen did not expect to see many familiar figures who had participated in the Spring Festival auction. Among them were the horse-faced cultivator, the black-cloaked man, the arrogant young master, the bearded man, and others. There were also people from the Valley of 10,000 Medicine. However, Xiao Chen did not mind. After all, he did not disguise himself. At that time, he appeared at the auction as Yang Jianan, so these people did not recognize his current appearance. Instead, those who were familiar with each other greeted each other, and it was considered that they had met, Chapter 989. Although the valley was full of people, they did not socialize much. They gathered in twos and threes, occupying a space and whispering to the people of their respective sections. After all, the purpose of this trial was to collect spiritual jades, so there was no need to be too polite. When the time came, someone might stab them in the back. Even if they were familiar with each other, there was no need. On the third day, when the valley was almost full, a young man finally walked out of the fog on the other side of the fork in the road. Those with sharp eyes rushed forward and surrounded the young man. Those who were a step too late could only resentfully wait on the periphery. Xiaoqin and the rest continued to lazily stay where they were without moving. After all, the valley was only so big. As long as that young man spoke in a normal voice, everyone would be able to hear him. There was no need for them to sharpen their heads and drill their way in. The young man stood on a stone and glanced at the crowd condescendingly. With an arrogant expression, he shouted loudly, "Line up, line up. What kind of mess is this? If you want to go in, obediently follow the order. Why do you have no manners at all?" The people around did not dare to be negligent and quickly began to line up. There were many pushing and shoving and threatening to cut the line. However, after all, everyone was considered a member of the outer Wuling, so they did not fight too much. They still lined up in a very short time. Naturally, Xiaoqin and the others stood at the back. The young man looked around and curled the corner of his mouth. He took out a form from his bosom and began to record the names of the people participating in the trial one by one. As he wrote down, he kept shouting, "You should all know the rules. If anyone dares to fight privately before the trial starts, they will be directly disqualified. I'll remember those few just now. All of you pay attention. When you go to the inner Wuling, all of you better behave. Don't look at what you shouldn't see and don't gossip about what you shouldn't say. Otherwise, apart from being disqualified and driven out, the sect you belong to will be severely punished. I think you don't want to shame your sect, right?" Everyone was still counting on this young man to lead the way for them, so they all agreed obediently. No one dared to oppose him. If they offended him, wouldn't it be too shameful to be driven back without even being able to enter the inner martial arts world? After he finished registering the silent Xiaoqian's group, the young man stuffed the form into his bosom and jumped down from the rock. He said very arrogantly, "All right, stop dawdling, follow me." After he finished speaking, he walked towards one of the forked roads. "Who is this person? Do you know him? He looks quite arrogant." Xiaoqin glanced at the young man and deliberately lagged behind as he asked Jiamuzin. "I know him, but he's not from our family. He's a third-generation descendant of the Tang family's patriarch. His name is Tang Qianqi." Jiamuzin also lowered his voice and said disdainfully, "He's just an errand boy. Don't be fooled by his arrogance. He's actually a bastard. His status isn't much higher than mine." Jiamuzin never had a good impression of this kind of person, so his evaluation was merciless. "Oh, but he's responsible for registering and guiding people into the inner martial world. It can be considered a heavy responsibility, right? It seems that this guy is quite popular in the Tang family. Otherwise they wouldn't have let him come." Xiaoqin nodded. He didn't care much about Tang Qianqi's arrogant attitude. He was just a follower, nothing more. Arguing with him would only lower his status. However, he still felt strange in his heart. He didn't know why the Tang family would send such a fool to lead the way for everyone. Tisk, isn't it because he relied on Tang Qianling, the heir of the Tang family? He hugged someone's thigh and became their lackey. He felt that he had a backer, so he's very proud and looks down on us. Jiamuzin shrugged and said with a look of disdain, "Jia Huiyan also asked me to follow him, but I couldn't be bothered with him. I don't have any dignity." TSK, you can't say that. If you really followed Jia Huiyan, maybe the one leading the way here today would be you. Ah. Xiaoqin couldn't help but make fun of him. Those guys behind you, are you not taking my words seriously or what? I told you not to gossip, but you're still talking nonsense. Behave yourselves. Do you believe that I'll chase you all away if you keep making noise?" Tang Qianqi, who was leading the way, pricked his ears and heard Xiaoqian's laughter. He immediately turned around and pointed his finger at Tang Qianqi and scolded him. Xiaoqin rolled his eyes at the sky. He was speechless. His voice wasn't that loud either. Tang Qianqi could actually hear him. It seemed that this kid's cultivation was not low. Could it be that he had a pair of clairvoyant ears? Jiamuzin patted Xiaoqian's shoulder and smiled helplessly at him. The two of them stopped chatting and continued to follow the group forward. Everyone followed Tang Qianqi. They walked here and there in the fog. After walking for about half an hour, Tang Qianqi suddenly stopped. There were two towering trees not far away. Between the two trees, there was a strange green light that was constantly surging out. It was obviously different from the surrounding environment. Xiaochen quietly released his divine sense. He saw a huge teleportation formation on the ground in front of him. The green light was emitted by the formation. Seeing this formation, Xiaochen was a little surprised. Although he had seen a teleportation formation before, it was the first time he had seen such a big one. Okay, we're here. Tang Qianqi turned around and put down the bag that he had been carrying on his back from the beginning. He said, "Now I'll start giving out the trial taker's tokens. This token will be your only identification in the inner martial arts world. If you want to enter and exit the inner martial arts world, you must use the token. If anyone loses it, come to me for a replacement. The handling fee is 100 million. With a clattering sound, Tang Qianqi took out a pile of ebony tokens from his backpack. These tokens all had a faint cyan glow similar to the color of the magic circle. Other than that, there was nothing special about them. 100 million. Isn't this too expensive? Is this a robbery? That's right. Such a broken piece of wood. You actually have to spend money to buy it? What a scam. This number was too shocking. Many people couldn't help but start to complain. Although everyone felt that they were cautious and wouldn't easily lose the token, what if they accidentally broke it or someone stole it? Wouldn't they have wasted 100 million? All of you shut up. Hearing the noise of the crowd, Tang Qianqi frowned and said in a lukewarm tone, "If anyone doesn't want to participate, you can leave now. But I'll say the ugly words first. I don't have time to send out timid people like you. If you think you're capable, you can try and see if you can walk out of this forest." Chapter 990. Hearing this, everyone immediately quieted down. Although they were a little unhappy and felt that they had been cheated by Tang Qianqi, they dared not say anything. After all, they really did not have the confidence to escape from the fog. When they were brought here by Tang Qianqi, they could not even see their fingers in front of them. Who would remember the route? Even if they remembered, what if there were other dangers in this forest? Since there are no objections, then come and get your token. Seeing that everyone was silent, many people began to gather here. Tang Qianqi said proudly, "That's more like it. I have just registered your names. I will report one, you come and get one. You can't get it on someone else's behalf or falsely." After that, Tang Qianqi took out the registration form and began to report the names. He distributed the ebony token one by one and shouted as he distributed it, "Let me tell you one more thing. Remember, the token can only be used once. After you enter the inner martial arts world, it will lose its effect. If you want to come out again, you must first confirm with the organizer and then come to me to activate the token. However, it will cost 50 million for each activation." What the F***CK? This kid is obviously cheating money. No wonder his name has the word money in it. Is the Tang family relying on this to get rich? Xiaochen muttered. Although he was a little reluctant, the situation was not in his favor. He had no choice but to go over and collect the token. There is no other way. When the time comes, if you want to come out, I will try to see if I can secretly activate it for you through my connections. Otherwise, he will collect a sum of money for nothing. Jia Muzhen responded and also went forward to get the token. Xiao Chen held the ebony token in his hand and carefully looked at it. He found that apart from the green light it emitted, there was a string of numbers engraved on the front of the token. Other than that, there was no other mark. At this time, Jia Muzhen had already returned. Looking at the number on the token, he was speechless and said, "Psi 54044, it is quite unlucky. Xiaochen, what is your number?" 54088, haha, I am your father. This guy gave me his father's token. Could it be that he's hinting that I should exercise my father's authority and teach him a lesson? Xiaochen laughed and teased. Aya, Sister Sour's number isn't good either. Menjing Ling, Chenxue, your numbers? Tian Sour, who was the last to receive his token, had just returned. When he saw the token in his hand, he was about to ask for the others' numbers when he was interrupted by Tang Qianqi. "Everyone, have you gotten your tokens? All of you, stand in that circle and get ready to enter the inner martial arts world." Tang Qianqi shouted at the top of his lungs. Tian Soran pouted helplessly. He had no choice but to dismiss the idea of asking for the number. Holding the token, he walked into the circle with Xiao Chen and the others. As soon as everyone stepped into the circle, they felt a flash of green light, and then everything went black. Not long after, the surroundings became bright again. However, they were no longer in the forest. Obviously, they had been transported to another place. The surroundings were surrounded by verdant hills and clear waters. It was completely different from the thick and foggy forest outside. It was unknown whether it was a parallel space of another dimension or a paradise. Xiaoqun glanced around and found that the inner martial arts world was really a good place. The temperature was suitable and the spiritual qi was abundant. It was much better than the secular world. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. No wonder there were so many people with the strength of King Wu or Demon Lord in this place. This place was naturally suitable for cultivators to exist. After coming back to his senses, Xiaoqun looked down at the token in his hand and found that it had become an ordinary piece of wood. It was no longer emitting that kind of green light. Obviously, as Tang Qianqi had said, this ebony token could only be used once. If he wanted to use it again, he would probably have to inject energy or use a special method to activate it. Everyone was curious and excited to enter the inner martial arts world. They followed Tang Qianqi all the way, shuttling through strange places. 3 days later, they finally arrived at a town and were arranged to stay in an inn. Tang Qianqi arranged a place for them to stay, told everyone to wait here for notification, and then disappeared. Tang Qianqi arranged for Xiaoqun's group to stay in the 2 largest luxurious rooms in the inn. After all, they had the largest number of people. Tang Qianqi also attached more importance to them. Anyway, they were cannon fodder labor. Of course, the more people, the better. Therefore, he simply gave them the best treatment. Xiaoqun and the others naturally didn't refuse. After arranging their luggage in the room, they went to the hall on the first floor of the inn ready to eat. However, as soon as they sat down, they were stared at by another group of people sitting in the corner. Brothers, look. The girls at that table are not bad. There are a lot of them and they are of high quality. Moreover, each of them is dripping water. Should we go and play with them? A big man with a dark face and sideburns poured wine into his mouth. His wretched eyes glanced at Tian Wangchuan and Ling He. He couldn't wait to rush over and do something to them. Old hey, you don't say. Those girls are really of the highest quality. Especially that girl in tight clothes. Just her long legs and perky but alone, tiske I can play with her for a year. A man with a crew cut sitting next to the bearded man stared at Ling Qianxue. He had a lewd and evil smile on his face, and his saliva almost dripped down. I like the one sitting next to the tight clothes. She looks like the daughter of a big family. Deep down she must like to be trained. I like this kind of little slut who looks high and mighty on the surface the most. The skinny man sitting at the other end of the table looked at Cheng Minjing's face obscenely. His eyes were shining with golden light. Let's go. Let's go drink with those girls and get to know each other. Who knows, we might be able to have sex tonight. The bearded man raised his head and drank all the wine in his bowl. He wiped his mouth casually, stood up, and swaggered over to Xiaoqun's table. This is not good, right? Old hey, don't you see there are 2 men at that table? Moreover, fighting in private will be disqualified and expelled from the inner martial arts world. If the sect leader finds out, we will be in big trouble. The skinny man saw the bearded man taking action and stopped him worriedly. He was the kind of person who was lecherous but did not have the guts to do it. It was okay for him to fantasize, but if he were to really fight, he would be a little guilty. Coward, what are you afraid of? Those 2 men look like they are made of wax. How can they compare to our guns and cannons? As long as we teach them a good lesson, they will not dare to say a word. The man with the crew cut hooked his arm around the skinny man's shoulder and dragged him over. But the skinny man was still a little hesitant. How could he explain if he was seen by the inner martial arts world people? Chapter 991. The buzz-cut guy glared at him and whispered in his ear, "You've been holding it in for a long time, haven't you? When we get the girl back, I'll let you fight with that girl for 300 rounds. She'll definitely not be able to leave you in the future." The skinny guy thought of that erotic scene and suddenly felt his lower abdomen heat up. He straightened his back, took a deep breath, and strode toward Xiaoqun's table. A sneer flashed across Xiaoqun's mouth. Although he was eating with his head down and didn't seem to care about his surroundings, he had been releasing his divine sense and remained vigilant. He had long heard the 3 scumbags' words clearly. However, Xiaoqun didn't take the initiative to find trouble with them. What a joke, none of the girls around him were easy to deal with. If they wanted to covet them, they had to see how much they were worth first. Beauties, are you eating? How about you give us face and have a drink or 2 with us? The bearded man came to the table and sat down between Tian Souring and Linger. He said with a straight face, as the saying goes, meeting is fate. You 2 are so beautiful, how boring it is to eat with these 2 cowards. Brother will introduce you to a few strong men. I guarantee that you will be happier than gods, ha ha ha. Linger and Tian Souring both frowned and stood up at the same time. They stared at the bearded man with disdain and turned to sit next to Xiaoqun. Now that they were in the martial arts world, They didn't want to take the initiative to cause trouble. If they broke the rules and were kicked out, it would be terrible. The bearded man was about to pour the wine, but suddenly the space next to him was empty. He was stunned. He didn't expect these two girls to react so quickly. He held the wine pot, and for a moment he didn't know whether he should continue to pour the wine or chase after Linger and sit next to her. He's right, these two are trash. One is a skinny white face, and the other is a four-eyed frog with glasses. How can they take care of you? They will be sucked dry in minutes. Let the three of us accompany you. The buzz-cut man sat down next to Ling Qianxue and laughed. Ling Qianxue's face darkened. Before she could react, the man with the crew-cut hair suddenly pulled the skinny man over and pushed him towards Cheng Menjing. He yelled, "Skinny man, hurry up and have a good chat with that young lady." When the skinny man was pushed, he simply took advantage of the situation and pounced over. He was now drunk. Since he had already done it, he might as well do it to the end. Cheng Menjing glared at the man with the buzz cut in disgust. She slightly leaned to the side, dodging the skinny man's pounce, and then reprimanded in a tender voice, "Are you all drunk? Get out of my sight, don't act like a drunkard here. Little girl, you're wrong. How can this place be cool? Of course your body is the coolest. Don't waste the skinny guy's good intentions. Hurry up and let him cool off." The man with the buzz cut smiled lewdly and reached out to touch Ling Qianxue's thigh. "Girl, your legs are really good. You practice yoga a lot, right? What positions do you like?" Slap. There was a loud slap in the face. Before the man's hand could touch his thigh, he leaned back and felt a burning pain on his left cheek. The man with the buzz cut covered his cheek and looked around blankly. "Did someone just slap me? But I didn't see who did it." Get lost. While the man with the buzz cut was in a daze, Ling Qianxue took a step back and then lightly kicked his chin. Bang. Ah. The man with the buzz cut screamed. He didn't have time to react and was directly kicked out. He fell heavily on the ground and spat out a few teeth. Blood flowed down from the corner of his mouth. His mouth was moaning, but he couldn't even speak. "Mother f*** king bitch, how dare you hit me?" Seeing this scene, the man with the beard almost exploded in anger. He threw the wine bottle and didn't bother to flirt with Ling Er anymore. He directly used his cultivation method and slapped Ling Qianxue. Bang. Another heavy sound rang out. Before the man with the beard's palm could touch Ling Qianxue's chest, he suddenly felt a strong wave of warrior chi coming from behind. Caught off guard, he was directly sent flying. Ouch! The man with the beard also cried out in pain and fell beside the man with the buzz cut. Blood kept bubbling from the corner of his mouth. The two looked at each other in horror. You're at the peak of level 6 Martial General. The skinny guy stood up and pointed at Ling Er in shock. Never in his wildest dreams would he have imagined that these girls, who looked like pretty vases, actually possessed such profound strength. "I'm only at the level of Martial General and you're already this scared? Do you want to continue to stay and test out the feeling of flying, or do you want to take those two scum and roll back?" Ling Er said coldly. She originally didn't want to make a move, but she was afraid that the man with the beard would suddenly attack and Ling Qianxue would be injured. So, after a short moment of hesitation, she gave the man with the beard a slap from behind. Female hero, spare me, I'll take them away now. I promise I won't come back and cause trouble for you guys again." The skinny guy was so scared that he peed in his pants. He scrambled over, holding the man with the beard with his left hand and holding the buzz cut with his right. He didn't even look back as he ran back to his room as if he was running for his life. Looking at the backs of the three people leaving, Xiaochen curled his lips. When those people were about to make a move, he wanted to make a move, but Ling Er and Ling Qianxue beat him to it. They beat them up so badly that he could only sit and watch the show. I thought that the people who came to participate in the trial were of good quality. I didn't expect there to be such scum. If I wasn't afraid of being disqualified, I would have killed them with a slap. Cheng Menjing frowned and complained unhappily as she looked at the skinny guy running away. That's right. How dare you try to take advantage of Soursis? Do you have a Maserati or something? Do you have a mansion? Really, do you really think we're easy to bully? Tian Wangshu waved his fist and said angrily. Xiaochen was a little speechless. If they had thrown out their car and house keys, you would have run away with them? You really don't think before you speak. Forget it, this kind of scum, it's enough to teach them a lesson. If we really beat them to death, I'm afraid we'll be in big trouble, Ling Qianxue said, then cleared the dishes and sat down to continue eating. That buzz cut guy got slapped, it was you who did it, right? Linger also returned to her original seat. She turned around and asked Xiaochen, "You're so fast. Even I didn't see how you slapped him." It seems that your cultivation is higher than before. Ling Er was sitting beside Xiaoqin just now, but she only saw Xiaoqin put down the chopsticks in his hand, then pick them up again in less than a second, and then the buzz cut got slapped for no reason. Only then did she realize that it was Xiaoqin who did it, and no one present saw Xiaoqin's actions. Chapter 992. Yes, I only patted him lightly. I didn't dare to use too much strength. There are so many people watching. If someone dies, we will definitely be the ones to suffer. Xiaoqin nodded. Ever since he came to the inner Wulin, he had been a little more restrained. He didn't dare to be as unscrupulous as before. After all, there were people who were more powerful than him everywhere. It was better to avoid trouble. Xiaoqin is right. Everyone should be careful. Don't hurt people unless it's absolutely necessary. Don't be fooled by that Tang Qinqi's taking care of us. If something bad happens, he will definitely turn against us. People from the big families in the inner Wulin are like that. Jia Muzin said sympathetically. He knew Tang Qinqi quite well. This person was like most of the children born of concubines. He knew that he had no hope of reaching the top, so he attached himself to the direct descendants of the family and then took the opportunity to plunder money. He was the type who wouldn't do anything without benefits. As long as he received benefits from others, he would do anything. The skinny man carried his two brothers back to the room with great difficulty. He quickly gave them medicine and took out ice packs to apply on their wounds. He applied medicine and bandaged their wounds. After being busy for a while, the two gradually woke up. However, they were still a little groggy and could only lie on the bed to rest. Dong dong dong. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. The skinny man almost jumped up in shock. He thought it was the girls from before who came to seek revenge. He paced around the room like an ant on a hot pan for a while. After a while, he decided to pretend that he was not there and not open the door to avoid being beaten up for no reason. Brother Wei, are you in the room? Let's go out for a drink while it's still early. It's my treat. The knocking outside the door stopped. A male voice sounded and then knocked a few more times. Ah, is it Brother Hong? Please wait a moment. Skinny Wei let out a long breath and wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. He knew this voice. It was Hong Dingrui who lived in the room next door. Hong Dingrui was a capable disciple of the Xuanyu sect, an orthodox sect in the outer martial arts world. He had come to the inner martial arts world with Skinny Wei and the others in the last batch. Since they got along well, they quickly became fair-weather friends. They often drank and talked about women together. They could be said to be good friends who shared the same rotten taste. Skinny Wei broke out in cold sweat from fear, and he hurriedly ran over to open the door and said apologetically, I'm sorry, Big Brother Hong. I made you wait for so long. 2 of my brothers are injured and I'm taking care of them now. What? How did Brother Nyo and Brother Zhou get injured? They were fine when you saw them in the afternoon? Hong Dingrui stared blankly as he saw the 2 of them lying on the bed sickly. One of them was half sitting and half sitting, his chin was swollen like a ball, while the other was naked with a large purple patch on his back. It seemed that their injuries were not light. Sigh, what else could have happened to them? They were beaten up. When we went downstairs to eat just now, we happened to see a few exquisite chicks. Originally, we wanted to invite them for a drink or two and reminisce, but we never expected that those stinking B*cheese would actually make a move directly. What do you think is going on? Skinny Wei sighed heavily and gave a simple recount of the incident. Damn. Those B*cheese are quite daring. They even dare to beat you up. Don't they know that you're my brother? Hong Dingrui slammed the door and said angrily. Big Brother Hong, don't mention it. Skinny Wei rolled his eyes and put on a bitter face. He added fuel to the fire. We purposely told them your name, but they beat us up a few more times. The main thing is that one of the girls is a martial general and we can't defeat her. Among the 3 of them, the highest cultivation was only at the peak stage 10 martial mentor, and they were no match for Ling Er. Damn, how dare they be so arrogant. Come with me. Hong Dingrui pulled Skinny Wei to the railing of the corridor on the 2nd floor. He looked down at the dining hall and said, Brother Wei, just point out the person for me and don't worry about anything else. Isn't she just a martial general? I'll bring a bunch of people and take care of her in minutes. Then I'll catch those girls and let you 3 brothers have fun. How can we do that? We're not as skilled as them, so how can we trouble you, Big Brother Hong? Skinny Wei was delighted, but he still said a few words of humility. What are you talking about? Hong Dingrui put on a straight face. Aren't we brothers? There's no need to talk about trouble between brothers. Hurry up. Then I'll thank Big Brother Hong first. Skinny Wei agreed. He looked around and pointed at Ling Qianxue and Ling Er, who had finished their meal and were waiting for the bill. He said, "Look, it's them. Just now, younger brother Nyo and younger brother Zhou were beaten up to that state by that chick in tight clothes and the sluts by her side." "Oh, they're all new faces. I don't think I've seen them before in the martial arts world. Could it be that they're all solo cultivators from the secular world?" Hong Dingrui glanced at Xiao Chen's table, and his eyes were immediately attracted. Top quality? All of them were top quality beauties. I've never seen such beautiful girls in the martial arts world. I'm not too sure about this, but I've never seen them before. I guess they're new here today. Skinny Wei scratched his head and said, "Whether they're new or not, I'll definitely help you." Hong Dingrui licked his lips, and then he turned around and patted Skinny Wei in a righteous manner as he said, "Brother Wei, go take care of Brother Nyo and Brother Zhou first. I'll bring my men over right now and help all of you take revenge. Wait for my good news." However, Hong Dingrui naturally wouldn't hand over these top-quality girls so easily. His plan was to send Skinny Wei away first, then call a bunch of people over to get the girls over. He and his brothers in the martial arts sect would enjoy them first, and then talk about it after they've had enough fun. Good. Then I'll thank Brother Hong on behalf of the three of us first. I'll treat you and your brothers to a good meal some other day as a way to return the favor. Skinny Wei expressed his gratitude with a face full of joy. "Look at you, I've already said that we're good brothers. Don't treat me like an outsider. If there's nothing else, I'll go and prepare first. Those girls should be going upstairs soon." Hong Dingrui waved his hand casually, turned around and walked towards his own room. Skinny Wei looked at Hong Dingrui's disappearing figure in excitement, and shook his head a little helplessly. He turned around and walked back. He wasn't an idiot, so he naturally understood what Hong Dingrui was thinking. However, the three of them were indeed not strong enough, so they didn't dare to have any improper thoughts. They only hoped that Hong Dingrui would remember to leave some soup for them after he finished the meat. Chapter 993. Xiao Chen and the others had their fill. It was already dark outside and they were too lazy to go out for a stroll. They were not familiar with the surroundings, so they chose to go back to their rooms to rest. "Xiao Chen, this room's soundproofing isn't good. Don't make too much noise at night." Jiamuzhen stood at the door of the room and winked at Xiao Chen. Previously, they were out in the open with such a large group of people. In order not to attract attention, Xiao Chen chose to stay with Jiamuzhen. Now that they had two luxurious suites in this inn, Xiao Chen naturally chose to stay with the girls. He could also seize the time to cultivate. Although Jiamuzhen didn't have any objections, he felt a little sad. It was boring to live alone in such a large room. If he had known this would happen, he would have found a girlfriend in university. Then he wouldn't have been so lonely. "Jiamuzhen, what nonsense are you talking about?" Cheng Minjing glared at Jiamuzhen and scolded him. "Sister Minjing, this four-eyed guy is obviously jealous of Xiao Chen. Let's ignore him. I'll sleep with you at night and I won't make any strange sounds. I won't let him eavesdrop." Tian Shaoring pulled Cheng Minjing's hand and smiled. "Shaoring, you keep calling yourself Sister Minjing and you call yourself Sister Shaoring. Who's the senior here? I'm getting confused." Xiao Chen teased. He took out the key and was about to open the door. From the corner of his eye, he saw a group of people walking toward him aggressively. Xiao Chen put down the key again. Although he didn't know the reason, his intuition told him that these people were here to cause trouble. There was no need to open the door. He might as well wait and see. Of course it's because Sister Minjing is the senior. She's the main wife, I'm the second wife, and Chen Xue and Ling Er are the junior wives. Oh, and Chu Xia too, although she won't admit it. Ah. Tian Shaoring laughed proudly. "Hey, all of you stop right there." Cheng Minjing was about to open her mouth when a loud shout came from not far away. Everyone turned their heads and saw Hong Dingrui rushing over with a group of men. He stopped in front of Xiao Chen and shouted angrily, "Do you know the rules? There were only a few of them, yet they dared to stay in a big room? Everyone is here to train, not to seek pleasure. Be careful not to provoke public anger." "You." Just as Tian Suruan was about to flare up, he was held back by Xiao Chen. He took a step forward and asked calmly, "Oh? Then what do you want?" At this time Hong Dingrui was carefully looking at Cheng Minjing, Ling Qianxue and the others. Looking at them up close, he realized that these girls were not only beautiful, but also had their own unique characteristics. It made his heart itch. No wonder Skinny Wei and the others were so impulsive. As for the group of people behind Hong Dingrui, other than his senior and junior brothers from Xuanyu faction, there were also some disciples from other factions. They were all called over by Hong Dingrui because he was afraid that they were not strong enough. At this time they were staring greedily at the girls, their faces filled with undisguised lust. These people were originally lusting after the beauties. They came here to pretend to be upholding justice, but in fact they wanted a share of the loot. Anyway, there were so many beauties of different styles here. With such a large group of people, they could easily get a few over with just a few threatening words. Everyone could play together, and when they were tired of playing, they could switch to continue playing with each other. Why not? Hearing Xiao Chen's question, Hong Dingrui thought that the other party was afraid. He waved his hand proudly and said, "How about it? Of course you guys should quickly give up the room and let the inner martial artists stay. They will be here in a few days." "Oh, but if that's the case, we won't have any rooms." Xiao Chen asked without batting an eyelid. "How do you think we should allocate our rooms?" "Don't worry, I've already thought about it for you guys." Hong Dingrui said seriously, "How about this? It's too empty for each of us to have a room. These women can be paired with us. 1 woman per room will do. If it's not enough, we can change rooms." The girls immediately looked angry. Before they could say anything, Hong Dingrui looked at Xiao Chen and Jia Muzhen and said in a strange tone, "As for you and that 4-eyed guy, the 2 of you can share a small room. Anyway, you guys look gay, so it's suitable for you guys to stay together." Ah! After Hong Dingrui finished speaking, the people behind him suddenly burst into laughter. All of them looked at Xiao Chen and Jia Muzhen's lower body. Someone took out a piece of soap and threw it in front of the 2 of them. "Oh my, I didn't expect you guys to have 2 faces. I think you guys are a group of real gays. There are actually people who carry soap with them and throw it everywhere. It really scared me." Tian Shaoring looked down at the soap on the ground, smacked her lips and sighed. Jia Muzhen, Cheng Menjing, Ling Chenxue and the others were originally full of anger and were about to explode. However, when they heard Tian Shaoring's words, they were instantly amused. Xiao Chen was angry and amused at the same time. He couldn't help but roll his eyes at Tian Shaoring. This little girl was really insensitive. From time to time she would say something that made people not know whether to laugh or cry. What should they say about her? Who the hell threw it? Hong Dingrui was a little embarrassed after being ridiculed. He glared at his men behind him and was too lazy to argue with them anymore. He said impatiently, "All right, don't talk about those useless things. My suggestion is not bad, right? Have you guys thought about it? The suggestion is not bad, but what if I don't agree?" Xiao Chen spat out the toothpick in his mouth and said casually. He was so angry that he almost laughed. Why were the outer martial artists' thoughts so weird? No wonder Ma Baobao and his son were so stupid and liked to play trapeze. And the smiling Mithria of the joyful clan was the same. This decision has been made by everyone. You have to agree even if you don't agree. Hong Dingrui looked at Xiao Chen's indifferent expression and frowned slightly. He didn't expect this guy to be such a troublemaker. It seemed that if he didn't teach him a lesson, he wouldn't give in. At this thought, Hong Dingrui activated his mental cultivation method and instantly released the strength of a martial king realm great perfection. He threatened Xiao Chen, "Hurry up, I don't have time to waste with you. Just tell me if you want to change rooms or not." A martial king realm great perfection could basically look down on anyone in this inn. Therefore Hong Dingrui was confident in his martial arts and took the lead to show off. "Based on your attitude, do you still dare to make a move if I don't agree to change rooms?" Xiao Chen asked expressionlessly as if he didn't feel Hong Dingrui's imposing manner. If it was a few months ago, Xiao Chen might have been a little afraid when he saw an expert at the martial king realm great perfection. But now, a cultivator of this level was nothing to him. Chapter 994. That's right. Even if we kill you, it'll be for nothing. When the time comes, we'll all give false testimony together. Let's see who the venerable ones in the martial arts world will believe. Hong Dingrui felt that Xiao Chen's question was extremely childish. Xiao Chen looked at him with a faint smile as if to say, "Try me if you can." However, Hong Dingrui did not think so. When he saw that Xiao Chen was indifferent, he thought that he was shocked by his coercion. He pointed at Cheng Menjing and ordered his men behind him, "All right, stop wasting time. This woman will come with me. You guys decide how to distribute the rest." After that, he swaggered towards Cheng Menjing. He reached out to grab her wrist and was about to take her away. Boom! There was a loud noise. Before Hong Dingrui could touch Cheng Menjing's hand, Xiao Chen had already slapped him. Hong Dingrui's head was instantly blown away by the powerful force. Due to the speed, he was still standing there. Other than the fact that he had no head, he looked exactly like a normal person. The people around him were stunned and did not move. None of them could react. After a while, Hong Dingrue's blood spurted out from his neck like a fountain. Like a fountain, it instantly dyed the entire ceiling red. Wow, that's amazing. You knew that the paint on the ceiling was peeling, so you deliberately used your blood to paint it. You sacrificed yourself for the inn. When the time comes, the Tang family will definitely reward you. Xiao Chen waved his hand and blew away the mist that came out of his palm. Only then did everyone come back to their senses. They took a few steps back and looked at Xiao Chen in horror. Xiao Chen looked around and sneered, "Did I say you could leave? Come over and take a closer look. How did this guy die?" Venerable. Venerable one. You're a venerable one? That group of people almost wet their pants. Although they did not see how Xiao Chen attacked, the strength he displayed in that instant was clearly that of a level 1 honorable. Many people's backs were drenched in cold sweat. Fortunately, Hong Dingrue was impatient and took the initiative to attack the little girl. If they were impatient and rushed over, they would have died without a complete corpse. F***ck me, why is the venerable one in this little inn? Could it be that he's also here to train? Cut the crap. Didn't you hear my question? Tell me, how did he die? Xiao Chen asked impatiently. He once again activated his mental cultivation technique and fully displayed the strength of a venerable. Waves of pressure pressed down on the remaining people until their legs turned to jelly. I saw it all. I don't know what's wrong with him just now. He hit himself and I don't know how, but he beat himself to death. One of them, who had a faster reaction, suddenly understood Xiao Chen's intention and hurriedly said, Right. We all saw it, he really killed himself. The others also came to a sudden realization and immediately echoed, All right. Xiao Chen saw that they were still sensible, so he nodded and said coldly, Since you know, why don't you hurry up and get lost? Do you want to be infected by him and beat yourself to death too? The group of people shuddered and hurriedly prepared to turn around and leave. Then Xiao Chen's demonic voice sounded again. Wait. Although this fellow sought his own death, he did a good thing before he died. He painted the ceiling evenly. There's no value in leaving him here anymore. You can take him away too. Okay. Although they agreed, the others did not dare to come closer and scattered like birds and beasts. Only the disciples of Xian Yu sect braced themselves and walked over to carry Hong Dingrue's body away. Then they hurriedly ran back to their rooms. Wow, hubby, you're so handsome. You just waved your hand and that person's head exploded. Sister Sour really loves you more and more. Tian Sour cheered, hugged Xiao Chen's arm and kissed him on the cheek. What handsome. Sour, can you be more normal? You spat blood all over the floor. It's so disgusting. Cheng Minjing glared at Tian Sour and complained to Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen, even if you want to teach that fellow a lesson, there's no need to use such extreme methods, right? Luckily, I'm more agile and dodged quickly. Otherwise, I'll definitely be covered in blood. Seeing that Xiao Chen stood up to protect her, Cheng Minjing was actually quite happy. However, this method of hitting the head was a little too bloody. Couldn't he just slap him into the sky? What's wrong with me? I'd rather Xiao Chen slap him into the sky? Could it be that I've seen too many dragonflies and centipedes, so I have a special liking for people flying in the sky? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't control my strength well. I'll be more careful next time. Xiao Chen scratched his head in embarrassment and apologized. Actually, Xiao Chen did not expect that the power of his palm would be so strong. He had not used his full strength previously. He thought that he would just slap his opponent into the sky. He did not expect that his opponent's head would explode. Furthermore, his opponent had martial chi to protect his body. Could this be the difference between a martial venerable and a martial king at the full circle? But they won't take this opportunity to cause trouble, right? What if they report to Tang Qianqi and cancel our qualifications to participate in the trial? Jiao Muzhen frowned and muttered worriedly. He knew these kinds of lackeys too well. They said one thing on the surface and did another behind the scenes. There was no credibility to speak of. Their words could not be trusted 100%. Don't worry, there's no surveillance in this inn. They can't prove that I did it. Tang Qianqi is more than happy to have more manpower. Why would he chase us away? Besides, he's a fool with limited intelligence. Xiao Chen shrugged and said indifferently. Jiao Muzhen thought that Xiao Chen's words made sense, so he did not say anything more. However, he was still a little worried. The next few days were peaceful. There was no trouble like what Jiao Muzhen had said. The disciples of the Xuanyu sect did not come to cause trouble for them. Occasionally, when they met in the inn, they would only glare at Xiao Chen a few times. After that, they would not do anything else. Instead, they would go around him and take other paths. At first, Xiaochen wanted to teach a few more a lesson. However, after a few times he chose to ignore them. Apart from eating, the group of people stayed in their rooms to cultivate. They rarely left the inn. The town where the inn was located seemed to be similar to a town in the secular world. However, the architectural style were more ancient. Therefore, Xiaochen only circled the vicinity of the inn a few times. He did not wander around blindly. Furthermore, there were no cars on the road. It looked very spacious. After thinking about it, it made sense. After all, everyone was a high-level cultivator. They did not need to rely on cars to travel. Just walking alone was enough. Chapter 995. Early in the morning, Tang Chenchi respectfully led 3 armed men to the door of the inn. These 3 men were the direct descendants of the 3 big families. One was Jia Huoyan of the Jia family, the other was Yu Dongxing of the Yu family, and the last one was Tang Qianling of the Tang family. The 3 of them seemed to be in their teens or 20s, and they chatted happily with each other. However, despite their young age, they were all the 3rd-generation successors of their families, or were about to become successors. Therefore they walked with their heads held high and their chests out. Huoyan, I heard that you are about to take office and become the successor of the Jia family? Don't forget to treat us to a drink at that time. Yu Dongxing looked at Jia Huoyan meaningfully and teased him with a smile. You flatter me, brother Dongxing. Jia Huoyan didn't deny it either. He smiled faintly and turned to flatter Tang Qianling. Isn't it all thanks to Big Brother Ling for sending me such a capable external aid? Only then can I have an absolute advantage in the upcoming external aid competition between the families. If I can take office successfully in the future, I will never forget your help today. Among the 3, Tang Qianling and Yu Dongxing were the same age, while Jia Huoyan was 1 year younger than them. Therefore he usually treated the other 2 as their younger brother. Ah, Huoyan, you are too polite. In fact, you are not much younger than us. Don't call us big brother. You make us sound old. Tang Qianling pretended to be modest, but in fact he was already very proud. However, he did not forget Yu Dongxing, who was on the other side. He turned to Yu Dongxing and said with a smile, if it wasn't for Dongxing's help, he would only be a mediocre person who can't even take care of himself, let alone help you. Chenchi, now that you are with Qianling, you must learn more. He has always been a righteous person. As long as you are loyal to him, he will definitely not treat you badly. Yu Dongxing was obviously very happy with Tang Qianling's flattery. He spoke to Tang Chenchi sincerely like a big brother. Of course. Thank you for your guidance, brother Dongxing. I will definitely learn from Master Ling. Tang Chenchi hurriedly nodded and promised. By the way, how many people have signed up for the trial? Have we reached the required number? Tang Qianling asked. Tang Chenchi brought out the name list and looked at it before he reported, Young Master Ling, a few days ago we brought more than 50 new people from the outer world of martial arts. Right now there are a total of 106 people in the inn. We've already reached the standard. Tang Qianling nodded slightly and ordered, all right, then let them come out and gather. If there's no problem, we'll go back and report to the family, and prepare to send them to work in the mines. Okay, I'll go and call them out. Tang Chenchi answered and turned to run into the inn. After a while, the people in the inn came out one after another and stood in the square outside the gate. They were all doing their own things when they were called over by Tang Chenchi. They didn't know what they were going to do, nor did they know who the 3 people in front of them were. They naturally formed a small group and stood together in 2s and 3s, whispering to each other. Stop arguing. Now let's do a head count. If you hear me call your name, shout out that you're here. After the roll call, wait for the eldest young master of the 3 big clans to give everyone a lecture. Tang Chenchi roared and everyone subconsciously quieted down. He cleared his throat and took the name list and began to take roll call. Xiaochen stood at the back of the crowd and glanced at Jia Huoyan and the others. He turned his head and asked Jia Muzin in a low voice, who are those 3 people? The 3 big clans? Why do they look even more hedonistic than me? They're clearly trying to steal my part of the show. The one on the left wearing red clothes is the direct descendant of the Tang clan, Tang Qianling. The one in the middle wearing white clothes is the Yu clan's young master, Yu Dongxing. As for the one on the right who looks ugly, Jia Muzin coldly looked at Jia Huoyan and said, that person is Jia Huoyan. The 3 of them are the 3rd-generation successors of the clan. Some have already been promoted and some will be promoted soon. Don't worry, it won't be long before you become the 3rd-generation successor of the Jia clan. Let that idiot be free and unfettered for a while. Xiaochen patted Jia Muzin's shoulder and asked with a little astonishment, I thought that the disciples of the big clans all looked down on each other. From the looks of it, they seem to be quite harmonious. Che, harmonious what? It's all an act. Don't look at how the three big clans seem to be harmonious on the surface, looking out for each other and helping each other. They are actually competing with each other in secret. Every clan can't wait to destroy the other two clans so that they can monopolize the power. Jiamuzin curled his lips in disdain. How come I heard that only the Open Heaven sect is more powerful in the inner martial arts world? What's there to compete with these three big clans? No matter how powerful they are, can they be more powerful than the Open Heaven sect? Don't they still have to be managed by others? Xiaoqin was a little puzzled and asked in bewilderment. Moreover, I heard you say that the Tang clan also sent external help to that Jiahuoyin? If their relationship was bad, they wouldn't have specially come to help, right? Previously, when Xiaoqin met little Miss Xing in the Demon Star sect, he discovered that the disciples of the other sects were all submissive to her, like mice seeing a cat. It could be seen how powerful the Open Heaven sect was in the inner martial arts world. Could it be that these three big clans were more powerful than the Open Heaven sect? That's still different. Sects are sects, clans are clans. Although the two sides usually have some interests, they basically don't interfere with each other. Jiamuzin shrugged and explained. Oh, then are the three big clans equal in strength? No matter what, there should be a difference, right? Xiaoqin asked while rubbing his chin. Jiamuzin explained unhurriedly, the Tang clan has the most experts, and the clan's disciples are all very talented in cultivation. However, they suffer from a lack of resources on hand, and even the ancient secret manuals are very few. Although the Yu clan doesn't have many experts, and the younger generation mostly only know how to eat, drink and play without any achievements, they have a deep foundation. They have many heavenly treasures and ancient secret manuals, so the Tang clan often sends experts to the Yu clan to learn. What about the Jia clan? Jiamuzin paused, glanced at Jiahuoyin and continued, as for the Jia clan, they are the biggest shareholder of the heavenly jade mine. Therefore, they have the most powerful connections in the inner martial arts world. This is an advantage that the other two clans don't have. Therefore, although the three clan masters appear to be harmonious on the surface, they secretly do everything possible to seize each other's resources for themselves. Listening to what you said, the Yu clan should be the weakest. They don't have any connections, nor do they have any experts overseeing them. They only have a mountain of treasures, so it should be easy for the other two clans to swallow them up. How can they still stand tall? Xiaoqin asked curiously after listening to Jiamuzin's analysis. Chapter 996. That's because, although the Yu clan's disciples are not good and most of them are playboys, they have a very powerful ancestor. Back then, many sects and clans wanted to take advantage of the Yu clan, so they joined forces to stir up trouble. In the end, they were completely annihilated by that ancestor. Ever since that time, no one has dared to disrespect the Yu clan. Jiamuzin smiled and explained indifferently. Damn. The inner martial world is really full of old ancestors and old monsters. Fortunately, I looked for you in advance to understand the inside story. Otherwise, if I had acted rashly and foolishly stepped on their territory, I reckon I would have been left there before I could react. Xiaoqin scratched his head and laughed dryly. It seemed that he was still too weak. A mere level 1 honorable was nothing to him. In the future, not only would he have to strengthen his cultivation, he would also have to be careful when he walked in the inner martial world, lest he would be killed for no reason. Actually, since that time, the Yu clan's ancestor has been in closed-door training for many years. He won't come out easily even if there's nothing important. You don't have to worry too much. Jiamuzin smiled and patted his shoulder. Hong Dingrue. Is Hong Dingrue here? Xiaoqin was about to answer when he suddenly heard Tang Chenqi shouting loudly, Motherf *Ker, is that bastard not here? Now that the young masters of the three great clans are here, he still won't come, right? Chenqi, don't be too impulsive. Maybe he has something important to do? You should ask the others. Yu Dongxing frowned and calmly stopped Tang Chenqi from flying off the handle. Then he secretly stared at him. This brat was too blind. Why did he scold people the moment he opened his mouth? Furthermore, he even deliberately brought out his own name so that others would think that he was the one who was bullying others with his power. Yu Dongxing was a person who was extremely concerned about his reputation. He was usually elegant and graceful. Although he secretly did shady business, he still had the demeanor of a gentleman to the outside world. He hated it when others used his name to intimidate others, for fear of ruining his reputation. Yes, Big Brother Dongxing is right. I was careless. Tang Chenqi was shocked. He quickly restrained his expression and smiled at Yu Dongxing embarrassedly. Tang Qianling glanced at Yu Dongxing and didn't say anything, but he was a little unhappy in his heart. I haven't even taught my men a lesson. Why are you overstepping your authority and teaching them a lesson? Tang Qianqi suppressed his anger and looked through the name list for a while before raising his head and asking expressionlessly, "Where are the people from the Xianyu sect? Come out and explain to me why Hong Dingrui didn't come to the assembly." It's best if he's dead or on the verge of death, unable to get out of bed. If he can't come up with a convincing reason, he'll be severely punished according to the rules. Our reporting, Lord Chen Qi. I'm from the High Feathers sect. Senior brother Hong Dingrui was beaten to death a few days ago. It was that man who did it. A young man hesitated for a moment before walking out from where the High Feather School disciples were standing. He pointed at Xiao Chen and shouted, "What? Damn, you've got guts. I've already clearly warned you not to fight in private. Not only did you beat him up but you even killed him?" Tang Qianqi was instantly furious. Damn, I've finally accepted a mission to show off, but someone is undermining me. Among the cultivators who came here, which one of them didn't listen to his words? He didn't expect this guy to break the rules and ignore his words. Tang Qianqi looked in the direction of the young man's finger and realized that he was pointing at Xiao Chen. He was slightly stunned. He knew that Xiao Chen had brought quite a number of people with him. At this moment he could only suppress his anger and ask through gritted teeth, "What exactly is going on? Your name is Xiao Chen, right? You'd better give me a reasonable explanation." It's like this. Before Xiao Chen could speak, the young disciple rushed to say, "A few days ago, senior brother Hong was chatting with us in the inn. We saw that this guy looked unfamiliar and wanted to chat and befriend him. We didn't expect him to be so arrogant. Not only did he speak ill of us, but he also slapped senior brother Hong and killed him. We wanted to reason with him, but we almost lost our lives." Xiao Chen had just said one word when the young disciple suddenly shouted, "Junior brothers, quickly carry senior brother Hong out for Lord Chen Qi to see. Let him be the judge." With the young disciple's shout, the crowd quickly split into two sides. The High Feather School disciples carried a stretcher out from the back. Hong Dingrui's corpse was on it. It was still emitting a slight stench, and it was obvious that it had started to rot. Tang Qianqi was originally standing far away. The young disciple grabbed him and pulled him towards Hong Dingrui. He said, "Lord Chen Qi, come and take a look. Senior brother Hong died so tragically. When he went out, he didn't even have a complete corpse." Although it was a little disgusting, Tang Qianqi still couldn't help but look at Hong Dingrui's corpse. He saw that his head was a bloody mess and his face was indistinguishable. Although it was placed together with his body, it was obvious that it had been split in the middle. Ugh! Many disciples saw this scene and ran to the side to vomit. The scene was a little chaotic. The young disciple took the opportunity to secretly stuff a bag into Tang Qianqi's hands. He even gave him a look. Then his face fell and he said in a tearful voice, "Boo! Lord Chen Qi, 3 young masters, if you hadn't come today, we wouldn't have dared to complain. We were afraid that this guy would take revenge. Now that senior brother Hong's head is missing, and his corpse is still warm, the person involved is still out there. I hope that you can help us get justice. Other than the people from the High Feather School, who else can testify for you?" Tang Qianqi wasn't stupid. He quickly grabbed the bag tightly and hid his hands in his wide sleeves. Then, he turned his gaze away and looked at the others in the square with a solemn expression. When it came to private fights, everyone had their reasons. As long as no one was killed, Tang Qianqi would choose to turn a blind eye to it. If someone took the initiative to complain and paid an arbitration fee, he would stand up and uphold justice for that person. However, it was a different matter if someone killed someone. Even if he didn't give any benefits, Tang Qianqi would still punish them. However, he usually tried to mediate and let the party who beat someone pay some money to settle the matter. After all, Tianyu Mine was currently short of manpower. Unless there was a major incident, he wouldn't easily disqualify someone. There were many people present at that time. Everyone can testify for us. The young disciple was delighted and hurriedly shouted. Tang Qianqi accepting the bag meant that there was a chance. However, what surprised him was that no one stood up immediately. Everyone present looked at each other and stared at each other. Chapter 997. That day, other than the disciples of the Shenyu sect, there were indeed people from other sects who went to look for Xiao Chen with Hong Dingrui. However, at this moment they were all retreating. Xiao Chen's brutal methods that day had left a deep impression on them. They were afraid that Xiao Chen would take revenge on them if they stood up. Seeing that the situation was not right, the young disciple rolled his eyes and said loudly, "Everyone, don't be afraid. Since Master Chen Qi and the three young masters are willing to stand up for us, then be brave and tell the truth. As long as the murderer is brought to justice, Senior Brother Hong will be able to rest in peace in heaven. We will also have one less threat in the future trials. Everyone can be happy." At this point, the young disciple's meaning was clear. As long as Xiao Chen was killed, those women would belong to everyone. At that time, the trial would be boring and everyone would be able to find some fun together, right? Yu Dongxing, Tang Qianling and Jia Huoyan were a little confused. When did they agree to stand up for the Shenyu sect? Why was this kid talking to himself? However, they did not stop him. Instead, they stood there and watched the situation unfold. There were many people who used their names as flags. Now that this was a dispute in the outer martial arts world, there was no need for them to be in a hurry to clarify anything. They just needed to wait for Tang Qianqi to settle the matter. Our Qi Wuzong can testify that it was indeed that man who killed Hong Dingrui. If we hadn't run away quickly, I'm afraid we would have been silenced by him. Please, Master Qianling and the three young masters, uphold justice. Understanding the meaning of the Shenyu sect's disciple, Qi Wuzong and the others immediately became restless. A few of them pointed at Xiao Chen and said loudly, "Now that we have witnesses and evidence, what else do you have to say?" Tang Qianqi slowly walked in front of Xiao Chen. Just now, he had secretly squeezed the thing in his hand. It was a big bag of spirit jade, so he did not even think about it. He was prepared to kill Xiao Chen to make an example out of him. "Don't you want to hear the reason why I killed him?" Xiao Chen countered with a question. He really hadn't expected that Tang Qianqi would directly ask him to plead guilty without even asking for the reason. "Tell me, did you kill him?" Tang Qianqi pressed. Seeing Xiao Chen nod, he said fiercely, "That's enough. No matter what your motive is, as long as you make a move, you will be punished." "Oh, can I say dirty words?" Xiao Chen looked at Tang Qianqi from the corner of his eyes. He clearly saw the young disciple's little trick just now, but he was too lazy to expose it. In any case, Tang Qianling would definitely not admit it even if he died. Jia Muzin was right, these lackeys would do anything for the sake of benefits. Holy shit. "You brat, you're about to die and you still dare to play tough with me?" Tang Qianqi instantly jumped up and pointed at Xiao Chen. He waved his hand at the subordinates behind him and instructed, "Capture this kid. Lock him up in the Tang clan's prison and await the young master's judgment." Yes. Seeing the two big men walking towards him, Xiao Chen secretly frowned. He wanted to find a chance to go to the mine first, but now it seemed that it was impossible. However, Xiao Chen didn't take it to heart. Anyway, sooner or later he would fall out with the Jia clan and Tang clan. At the worst, he would just break out in advance and think about it later. Just as he was about to take action, a figure suddenly stood in front of Xiao Chen and sneered, "Tang Qianqi, you're just a lackey and you want to punish your grandpa Jia's friend? Have you forgotten that I beat him until he cried for his mom and dad when he was a kid? You're Jia Muzin? What are you doing here?" Tang Qianqi was stunned. He originally wanted to curse, but after seeing that the person in front of him was Jia Muzin, he subconsciously took 2 steps back and asked in a slightly panicked tone. The children of the 3 big families often played together when they were young. Jia Muzin was a childhood shadow for Tang Qianqi. Every time he recalled the scene of him being beaten up as a child, he would always have a lingering fear. Because he was too playful, Tang Qianqi didn't focus on cultivation since he was young. Moreover, he was the son of a concubine, so he had no status in the family. With a slightly twisted mentality, he often bullied children who were smaller than him. Jia Muzin was one of them. However, ever since Jia Muzin had broken through and become a martial artist, Tang Qianqi no longer had any advantages. Whenever he ran into Jia Muzin, he would be beaten black and blue, so much so that he would take a detour whenever he saw Jia Muzin. "Why can't it be me? Who said that I can't participate in the trial?" Jia Muzin said calmly. He originally didn't want to expose his identity, but seeing that Xiao Chen was in trouble, he couldn't just sit back and do nothing. Tang Qianqi's expression was a little ugly. He turned to look at Tang Qianling, obviously wanting to ask him for help. "Haha, you also want to participate in the trial?" Tang Qianling was just about to speak when Jia Huoyan walked over with a sneer. "Fine. Then you can go. Haha, when the time comes, I will let all the Jia family members come and watch. Let's see how miserable the fate of those who oppose me will be." A dignified disciple of the Jia family has been reduced to a laborer. "Previously, I have been busy with the trial and didn't have time to deal with you. I didn't expect you to deliver yourself to my door. Previously, when he was in the Jia family, Jia Huiyin couldn't stand Jia Muzin. Jia Muzin was a son of a concubine, but his cultivation talent was quite high. Jia Huiyin originally wanted to rope him in and make him his right-hand man. He didn't expect that this kid would refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit and always go against him. Jia Huiyin couldn't stand it and targeted him everywhere. Every time he saw him, he would mock and ridicule him. As a result, Jia Muzin couldn't stand it and actually secretly ran away from the Jia family. It just so happened that the trial mission was issued at that time. Jia Huiyin was busy with related matters all day long. Moreover, before he became the family head, his resources and manpower were limited. Therefore, he didn't have time to find trouble with Jia Muzin. What? You still want to use public office to take revenge? Jia Muzin coldly snorted and didn't even look at Jia Huiyin. He was very clear about Jia Huiyin's despicable methods, so he couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense. Haha, use public office to take revenge? You're too naive. Of course I won't do that. Jia Huiyin laughed insolently and said sarcastically, originally, since you betrayed the family, I could kill you right now. However, since you want to lose face so much, I'll let you live. Go to the heavenly jade mine and make a fool of yourself. Seeing that Jia Huiyin was dealing with the family's internal affairs, Tang Qianling and Yu Dongxing didn't interrupt. They only sneered and glanced at Jia Muzin and the others. However, as Tang Qianling looked and looked, he suddenly discovered a familiar figure in the crowd. Tang Qianling's eyes narrowed and he subconsciously widened his eyes. After taking a closer look, he suddenly pointed at Tian Shaoring and shouted, Tang Shaoring, come out right now. Tian Shaoring, who was originally a little distracted, suddenly trembled in fear. She didn't expect that she would be recognized. In a panic, she hurriedly hid behind Xiao Qin. Chapter 998. When Jia Huiyin heard this, he followed Tang Qianling's gaze and looked into the crowd. He happened to see Tian Shaoring trying to avoid him. His expression changed and he strode over. Shaoring corner, what are you doing here? Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? Hurry up and follow me back to the Jia family. Jia Huiyin shouted angrily as he reached out to grab Tian Shaoring. Sister Shaoring is not leaving. I am here to participate in the trial. What right do you have to take me away? Are you going to break the rules? Tian Shaoring dodged Jia Huiyin's hand and continued to hide behind Xiao Qin. She cautiously stuck out her head to protest. Jia Huiyin was stunned for a moment. This Tian Shaoring was right. If he were to take her away in public, others would definitely complain. If someone harbored ulterior motives and reported him to the family, he would be in trouble. Jia Huiyin was stunned for a moment. Although Jia Huiyin was already the heir to the Jia family, he knew that the family had invested a lot of effort into this trial mission. They valued these cannon fodder very much. Otherwise, they would not have sent the three of them. After all, it was not easy to gather more than 100 people. He had spent so much energy, but in the end he failed because of a woman. Not to mention becoming the heir, he would probably be banished to the cold palace. Jia Huiyin's expression turned ugly. Was he going to let Tang Shaoring corner off just like that? Forget it. Since they were willing to work in the mine, he would secretly arrange a more dangerous position for them in the mine. When she was afraid or in danger, he would rescue her. Let's see if this stubborn girl would still obediently go back with him. After the plan was decided, Jia Huiyin looked at Tian Shaoring without batting an eyelid. He turned around and waved his hand. He shouted impatiently at the Xuanyu sect disciples, "All right, hurry up and line up. Don't talk nonsense. That Hong whatever is dead, so be it. How did he die? I didn't see it." The young disciple was dumbfounded. Why was the script different from what he had imagined? He looked at Tang Qianqi with a bitter expression. In the end, he realized that Tang Qianqi was listening respectfully with his head lowered. He had no intention of speaking up for him. "What are you talking about? If you want to complain, go ahead. Since no one will care, let's go to the mine." Jia Huiyin coldly snorted and glared at him. "If you feel wronged and don't want to go, you can hug that headless corpse to sleep every day." The young man was also very helpless and could only obediently line up. He was very shocked. No wonder that group of people were so arrogant and fearless when they killed people. It turned out that there were two people who had run away from the Wulin family. It seemed like this matter could only be dropped. In the future, he could only hope that they wouldn't come looking for trouble with him. That would be great luck and he would thank the heavens. Alas, what a waste of my bag of spiritual jades. After the roll call, everyone packed up and left the inn, heading out of the town. Along the way, Tang Qianling and Jia Huoyan stared at Xiao Chen and the others with malicious intent. They even gathered together and whispered to each other, seemingly discussing something. From time to time they would let out ambiguous laughter, but they did not take the initiative to cause trouble for them. When the group of more than 100 people walked along the main road for more than half an hour and were about to walk out of the town, they suddenly saw an 8-wheeled truck parked on the side of the road. Moreover, the truck was covered with a thick tarpaulin, presumably to shelter it from the wind and rain. Seeing Tang Qianqi and the others walking in the direction of the truck, the originally quiet group suddenly burst into an uproar. Oh my God, how can there be such a big truck in the Wulin? Is there a car factory here? I don't know. Are we going to take this truck to the mine? This is basically transporting livestock. Isn't this too exaggerated? At least get a bus. We are all the elites of the Wulin sections. How can we take a truck? Many people in the crowd were talking about it. None of them were very willing to take such a truck. Their dissatisfaction was obvious, especially Qing Menjing, Tian Souring, and the others. Their eyebrows were almost wrinkled to the sky. Xiao Chen was also a little shocked. These days he had been walking around the inn, but he had not even seen a small car. He did not expect to see such a big truck that was specially used to transport sand and stones. How did such a huge thing pass through the teleportation circle? What are you arguing about? Are you all stupid? Have you never seen a big truck before? Hurry up and line up. Tang Qianqi slapped the truck's cargo compartment and shouted angrily. Then he ran to a commercial vehicle in front of him and respectfully opened the door. He let Tang Qianling, Yu Dongxing, and Jia Huoyan get in, and he sat in the front passenger seat. There seemed to be a driver sitting in the front of the truck, but because the position was too high he could not see who the driver was. Xiao Chen used his divine sense to observe and found that it was just a big man with a fierce face. He was probably a disciple of one of the 3 big families. Everyone looked at Tang Qianqi's fawning face. Although they were cursing in their hearts, they could not do anything to him. In the end, they had no choice but to get on the big truck in order. Although the truck's cargo compartment was very big, like the trucks of the secular world's moving companies, it was still very cramped with so many people squeezing in at once. However, after getting on the truck, everyone consciously made a small circle for Xiao Chen and the others. They would rather die than get close to them. First of all, Xiao Chen was a ruthless character who killed people easily. Secondly, the other 2 were also from the big families of the inner martial arts world. Regardless of the internal conflicts between them, their identities were also high and mighty. Therefore, no one wanted to have a conflict with Xiao Chen and the others. They just wanted to stay far away, hoping that they could reach the mine safely, and then go their own way and have nothing to do with each other. Xiao Chen looked around and saw that the truck's compartment was tightly wrapped with black cloth. There was no gap and no scenery outside could be seen. He immediately guessed that the direction of the truck must be to the mine, but they did not want them to see the route. These guys were really careful. Even in the inner martial arts world, the location of the mine would not be easily known by others. It was estimated that the current measures were also to prevent them from talking or running away. However, this black cloth could block others, but it could not block Xiao Chen. Although it was dark all around, he could still see the general route with his divine sense and silently remember it in his heart. After the truck drove for a few hours, Xiao Chen finally understood why they had to use a large truck to transport people. It was because the road was full of potholes, ordinary vehicles really couldn't pass through. Qing Minjing and the other girls were about to vomit from the jolting. They could only firmly hold onto Xiao Chen's arm to prevent themselves from flying out. The big truck drove for 3 days and 3 nights. During this period, except for stopping once in the morning, noon and evening to let everyone go to the wild to relieve themselves, to distribute some pastries such as steamed buns and flour rolls to fill their stomachs, and to moisten their throats with a bottle of mineral water, the rest of the time was on the road, even at night. Chapter 999. Due to the strong bumps, some low-level cultivators couldn't sleep even if they wanted to. Their eyes were like panda eyes and they looked haggard. On the morning of the 4th day, the truck finally stopped at the entrance of the Tianyu mine. Everyone got out of the truck. Except for a few high-level cultivators, the low-level ones were all squatting on the side of the road and vomiting. This was their routine every morning since they got on the truck. Stand up, all of you. Stop putting on an act and wasting my time. Tang Qianqi jumped out of the commercial vehicle and rushed to the people squatting on the side of the road. He kicked their butts one by one and scolded, "Useless things. You've only been in the truck for a few days and you've already vomited like this. You're all useless." Those people staggered from the kick and almost fell into the grass on the side of the road, but they did not dare to complain. They could only secretly glare at Tang Qianqi, then weakly stood up and lined up to wait for instructions. Tang Qianqi glanced at the team and said loudly, "Well, now that we've arrived at the mine, I'll explain the rules to you. In fact, it's very simple. Everyone will enter this mine to collect spiritual jades for a month. You must collect at least 10 pieces of spiritual jades, and then you can come out to gather. Do you understand?" "Got it," Xiao Chen dragged out his voice, pinching his nose as he replied in a strange tone. Pfft. Many people couldn't help but snicker. They felt that Xiao Chen's teasing attitude was very satisfying. They had been suppressed by Tang Qianqi for too long, and they especially hoped that someone could fight against him. It didn't matter even if it was a murderous demon like Xiao Chen. "Brat. Don't be complacent. After you go in, you'll suffer." Tang Qianqi was furious, but he couldn't do anything to Xiao Chen. He could only yell at the others bitterly, "What are you laughing at? Hurry up and go to the gate to get a month's worth of food and mining equipment. Then get in and start working immediately." Xiao Chen and the others received their items according to the instructions. In fact, it was just a backpack with some simple food like compressed biscuits, a few large bottles of mineral water, a pickaxe for mining, and an electronic device. There was nothing else. The electronic device was also very simple. There was a red button on it. In an emergency, the user could press the button and send out a distress signal. It wouldn't be long before someone came to the place where the signal was sent to rescue them. Although these fellows were treated as cannon fodder and no one cared about their lives, it was not easy to recruit them. One dead meant one less, so the three great clans would try their best to avoid unnecessary losses. Tang Qianqi explained the use of the electronic equipment and gave a few more instructions before sending everyone in. He turned around and boarded the MPV, leaving the Tianyu mine. After walking into the mine, everyone dispersed. Xiao Chen stood in the same place and looked at the desolate scene around him. He felt a little strange. How did this look like a mine? Why wasn't there even a single person? He had thought that there would be a lot of people mining nearby, but the situation was the complete opposite. The surroundings were desolate. "Musin, what's going on? Let alone the mine, we can't even see a shadow of a person. Is that brat Tang Qianqi playing with us?" Xiao Chen frowned and suddenly wanted to turn around and rush out to catch Tang Qianqi and teach him a lesson. "That's right, this is indeed the Tianyu mine." Jia Muzin had been here a few times before, so he had some impression of it. He nodded, but his expression was a little unhappy. "Then why?" Jia Muzin knew what Xiao Chen meant and explained bitterly, "The reason why there is no one is because our location is not the main mining area. This is the periphery of the Tianyu mine. Not only is it dangerous, but the distribution of spiritual jades is also very sparse. The Jia family's mining team will not come here at all. Not only is it troublesome to mine, but it is also difficult to manage. The key is that the value is very low. TSK, it seems that our group has been treated as cannon fodder. That distress device is probably useless. I reckon that by the time someone comes to rescue us, we will already be dead. They will just collect our corpses and be done with it." Xiao Chen suddenly realized that his father must be in the mining team. He continued to ask, "By the way, which direction is the main mining area?" "Let me see. Oh, it's in that direction. I reckon it's about a few 100 kilometers away from us." Jia Muzin looked around and said, pointing to the east. Xiao Chen nodded and strode to the east. Jia Muzin and the others did not dare to be too far away from him. After all, his cultivation was the highest. Even if they encountered trouble, he would be able to respond immediately. As for the other people, they had already gone off to mine the spirit jades. Although there were more than 100 of them, they were scattered in the periphery of the mine. They were as inconspicuous as sand in a desert. No one paid any attention to where Xiao Chen and the others went. "Xiao Chen, are we really going to mine? I thought you would take the opportunity to escape with us. I didn't expect you to really come in." After walking for a while, Jia Muzin could not help but ask in surprise. On the way here, he was wondering when Xiao Chen was going to escape. In the end, Xiao Chen actually went straight into the mine and went in the direction of the main mining area. "Actually, I have a reason to come in. I suspect that my father has been captured here, so I have to go to the main mining area and rescue him." Xiao Chen smiled helplessly. He turned his head and patted Jia Muzin's shoulder, saying, "How about this, you and Minjing stay at the entrance and wait for me to come back. It's safer here. After I rescue my father, I will immediately meet up with you guys, and then we will find a way to escape." "How can that be?" Jia Muzin rejected. "If you want to go to the main mining area from here, there is no need to say more about the dangers in the middle. It is too difficult for you to walk alone. I will never let you go alone. How about this, I will go with you and the girls will stay behind and wait. However, Jiamuzin finally understood why Xiaoqin insisted on coming to the mine and why he wanted to go to the main mine at all costs. No way, no way. Sister Sour doesn't want to stay in this godforsaken place. It is not safe at all. If you leave Xiaoqin, what if Tang Qianling and Jia Huoyin come looking for trouble? Four Eyes can't beat them. Tian Sour also shook her head. It was not easy for her to escape from the Jia family. Naturally, she did not want to be captured again. If Xiaoqin left, she would lose her only support. Xiaoqin, I also don't agree with your decision. Although I know that you are doing this for our own good, since we are already here, let's not separate anymore. Let's continue walking together. Let's work hard to find Uncle Xiao and escape from this place. Cheng Minjing held onto Xiaoqian's arm and said resolutely. Her resolute attitude was completely different from the spoiled and willful young miss of the past. Chapter 1000. That's right. Since he's your father, he'll definitely become Chen Shui's and my father in the future. Of course we'll go with you to save him. Otherwise it won't make sense. Ling hugged Ling Chenshua's slender waist and asked with a smile, Chenshua, am I right? Along the way, even though Linger was still a little uncertain about her identity, she had already let down her guard and played around with the other girls. In addition to that, she and Ling Chenshua accompanied Xiaoqin to have fun together, so she felt an inexplicable closeness to Ling Chenshua. Yes. Although Ling Chenshua's expression was gentle and shy, she still nodded without any hesitation. Alright, since everyone says so, let's go together. Xiaoqin felt everyone's trust and dependence. He was touched and immediately agreed. Xiaoqin also did not expect that everyone would speak in unison and be so determined. Since he could not convince them, he might as well go together. After all, he did not feel at ease leaving them all in this place. Let's go. Sister Sour is going to see my future father-in-law. Tian Sour cheered and turned to leave. Wait. Xiaoqin did not know whether to laugh or cry as he stopped Tian Sour. Are you really going to walk there? There are so many of us, we can just fly there on our flying swords. But we need to find some spiritual jades first so that I can replenish my strength on the way. After deciding on their target, Jiamuzin led the group east. As he carefully observed the surroundings, he frowned and said, Xiaoqin, it's not that I want to say this, but spirit jades in the wild are not easy to find. Is it because they're very sparsely distributed? Xiaoqin asked. Not only are they sparsely distributed, but there are also dangerous ferocious beasts guarding the vicinity of every spirit jade mine. Jiamuzin patiently explained, there are many animals living in the heavenly jade mine. Some of them feed on spirit jade soul essences all year round. Not only do they have strong bodies and boundless strength, they can even mutate and evolve into terrifying creatures. Even a perfect martial king would fear them. Therefore no one dares to wander around outside. In other words, there are so many spirit jades in the main mine. Isn't that even more dangerous? Asked a surprised Xiaoqin. The main mining area has already been cleaned up by the cultivators from the various sects and clans. Therefore it is very safe now. Occasionally some lone wild beast would come out to attack. However, because there are many people mining, there are also many guards. Therefore they are quickly killed off, Jiamuzin explained. Oh, that's good. Otherwise, when the time comes, we will not only have to deal with the guards, but also have to pay attention to the wild. Before Xiaoqin could finish his sentence, he heard Tian Wangchuan suddenly exclaim from behind him. Ah! As Tian Suruan walked, she felt her feet go soft. A hole suddenly appeared on the originally flat ground. Before she could react, her whole body sank into the hole, and the lower half of her body was stuck in it. The few girls around her were also shocked. Linga was quick to react and grabbed onto Tian Suruan. The others quickly ran over to hold her back. Suruan! Xiaoqin shouted and rushed over. He grabbed Tian Suruan's arm and tried to pull her out. However, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't move her. Xiaoqin, hurry. Hurry up and save Sister Suruan. I am stuck in this hole and can't breathe. Tian Suruan struggled with all her might. Her face was a little red from the suffocation. This hole is too small. Don't struggle first. Otherwise it will be easier for you to sink in. I will try to pull you out, said Xiaoqin in a deep voice. Tian Suruan was silent for a moment. Suddenly she felt something beneath her feet was pulling her into the hole. She immediately turned pale with fright and shouted, There's something down there. There's a monster in the hole. It's grabbing my leg. It's pulling me down. Holy sh*t. What is this thing? Xiao Qin released his divine sense and found that there was a six-legged black monster in the hole. Its two front legs were tightly holding onto Tian Suruan's calf, and it kept dragging her into the hole. At this moment, Jiang Yuzhen had also arrived. When he heard Tian Suruan's words, he carefully looked at the hole that she had sunk into. His expression changed. There must be a giant demon spider inside. It likes to stay in this kind of hole. Giant demon spider? What the hell is that? Sister Suruan, why do you sound so scared? Tian Suruan's expression was a little fearful. She felt the force that was continuously pulling her in. Goosebumps rose all over her body. Jiang Yuzhen didn't have time to answer her. He immediately took out his pickaxe from his bag and said decisively, Xiao Qin, the hole gets smaller the deeper you go. Tian Suruan's leg must be stuck down there. Furthermore, she has been grabbed by the demon spider. You won't be able to pull her up in a short period of time. How about this? I will first dig a hole from the side. Then we will kill the demon spider. Only then can you pull her up. Let's do as you say. Menjing, Chenshue Lingair, come and hold Suruan's hand. Don't let her get dragged down. I will go and help Jiang Yuzhen dig a hole. Xiao Qin quickly assigned the tasks. The three girls agreed and held Tian Suruan's hand tightly. They even spoke softly to comfort her. At this time, Xiao Qin also took out his pickaxe. After determining the position of Tian Suruan's body, he bent down and started digging with Jiang Yuzhen. Unexpectedly, the ground here was very hard. Xiao Qin and Jiang Yuzhen spent a lot of effort to dig a small hole. They could not keep up with the speed of Tian Suruan's sinking. Xiao Qin originally wanted to circulate his yuan qi and directly blast a hole. However, he was afraid that it would be too close to Tian Suruan. It would be troublesome if he accidentally hurt Tian Suruan. If he was too far away, it would be useless. Clang. The sound of metal breaking could be heard. Jiang Yuzhen's pickaxe was directly broken. He did not complain and immediately threw it to the side. He changed to a new one and continued to dig. Xiao Qin, hurry up. I feel that Suruan can't hold on any longer. Qing Minjing saw the progress of Xiao Qin and the others. She could not help but anxiously urge them. Tian Suruan's face was deathly pale. She was already in so much pain that she could not speak. The hole was really too small. Half of her body was stuck in it. In addition, the giant demon spider was constantly dragging her in, so she could not breathe smoothly. Xiao Qin, I don't even know what to say to you. If you continue to dig so slowly, even if that little girl is not eaten by the demon spider, she will suffocate to death. Elder Heaven Ancestor's voice suddenly sounded. Then what should we do? This ground cannot be dug at all. Xiao Qin turned around and looked at Tian Suruan. He was also very anxious. Are you stupid? You know that the ground is very hard. Can't you just inject yuan qi into the pickaxe to dig? Elder Heaven Ancestor lectured. Chapter 1001. Oh, that's right. When Xiao Qin heard this, he was suddenly enlightened. He hurriedly revolved his mental cultivation method and condensed the essence in his body into the pickaxe. As he dug into the ground, he immediately felt a lot more relaxed, as if he was digging tofu. When Jiang Yuzhen turned his head and saw this scene, he didn't think much of it. He thought that Xiao Qin was forced to use the strength of a supremacy, which was why he could dig so quickly. Not long after, Xiao Qin and Jiang Yuzhen dug a hole in the ground. With the faint light from outside the hole, Xiao Qin clearly saw a terrifying giant spider grabbing Tian Suruan's leg and struggling to drag her into the depths of the cave. Creak. At the same time that Xiao Qin looked inside, the giant demon spider also discovered his existence. It suddenly roared and opened its mouth to spit a dark green liquid at Xiao Qin. Be careful, this liquid is highly toxic. Don't get sprayed. Jiang Yuzhen, who was behind Xiao Qin, had sharp eyes and quickly warned him. Bang! The sound of a strong acid melting something could be heard. Jiang Yuzhen thought that Xiao Qin didn't have time to dodge and was sprayed by the venom. He immediately broke out in a cold sweat. Just as he was about to reach out to drag Xiao Qin, Jiang Yuzhen saw him casually wave his hand, and a huge fireball quickly flew towards the giant demon spider. Creak, creak, creak. Caught off guard, the giant demon spider was burned by the fireball. It let out a painful scream and was quickly engulfed by the flames. However, it still didn't give up. Before it died, it bit Tian Suruan's leg, wanting to perish together with this human. Ah! It hurts so much. Xiao Qin, quickly kill that thing. Tian Suruan suddenly felt a bone-deep pain in her leg. Her face was distorted from the pain. She kicked with all her strength, wanting to shake off the giant demon spider, but it was to no avail. The demon spider seemed to know that it didn't have long to live. It used all its strength and firmly bit Tian Souring's leg. Motherf asterisk her, do you want to drag someone down with you before you die? Xiaochen was infuriated. With a fling of his hand, he threw away the pickaxe that had been mostly dissolved by the venom. With large strides he pried open the giant demon spider's mouth with his bare hands. Then he forcefully kicked it to the ground. Circulating his yuan qi, he heavily smacked it with his palm. Bang! With a muffled sound, the giant demonic spider was blasted into a bloody mess. Its entire body split apart, and then it was immediately burned to ashes by the flames, leaving nothing behind. At this moment Jia Muzin also rushed over. Seeing that only the wooden handle of the pickaxe was left, he quietly heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that Xiao Chen's reaction was quite fast. He knew to use the pickaxe to block the venom. Otherwise he was afraid that it would have also been dissolved. Seeing that the giant demon spider was as dead as a doornail, the two of them returned to the ground. Xiao Chen and the girls went over to pull Tian Suruan out. Phew. Sister Suruan was scared to death. I haven't even pushed you down yet. If I were to be eaten in this place, then Sister Suruan would have suffered a great loss. Tian Suruan was dragged out. She sat on the ground and patted her chest, still in a state of shock. Everyone expressed their speechlessness towards Tian Suruan. However, Xiaochen did not make a sound. That was because he had suddenly discovered a very bad situation. After Tian Suruan was pulled up, she had been sitting on the ground and had not stood up at all. Suruan, does your calf still hurt? Xiaochen frowned as he squatted down. He stretched out his hand to lift up Tian Suruan's pant leg. He carefully observed the wound on her calf and asked with a serious expression. It doesn't hurt anymore. When I was bitten just now, I felt a piercing pain. Sister Suruan thought that I would die from the pain. But it's all right now. It's numb and numb. There shouldn't be any problems. Tian Suruan replied indifferently. She turned around and suddenly realized that Xiao Chen was forcefully pressing on the wound on her calf. She immediately had a look of surprise on her face. When did you touch my wound? Why didn't I feel anything at all? At this moment, Jia Muzin also realized that something was amiss. He squatted down to observe the wound and immediately made a judgment. Suruan, you have been poisoned by the giant demonic spider. How could this be? Sister Suruan will still die? Tian Suruan turned pale with fright. Could it be that she had not been eaten by the demonic spider but was going to die from the poison? I won't die. Jia Muzin shook his head. However, this kind of poison will gradually destroy the central nervous system in the human body. At the beginning it will be extremely painful. Then, slowly you will lose all feeling. When the poison has completely taken effect, you will become a paralyzed person. Then what should we do? Sister Suruan is still so young. She doesn't want to be paralyzed in a wheelchair for the rest of her life. Xiaochong, hurry up and think of a way. Where can we get the antidote? Tian Suruan was so anxious that she was about to cry. The Jia family does have the antidote. However, this trip, there definitely won't be enough time. Sigh. Jia Muzin stood up and paced back and forth. He sighed in frustration. Suruan, don't be anxious. Relax. Otherwise, it will speed up your blood circulation and the poison will reach your heart faster. Seeing Tian Suruan's lips gradually turning purple and her face turning ashen, Xiaochen was also very anxious. However, he could not find a way to deal with it. Just now, Xiaochen had already tried to use his primordial energy to neutralize the poison in Tian Suruan's body. However, it did not have any effect at all. It could only slow down the speed at which the poison approached her heart and buy her some time. Elder Heaven Ancestor, do you have any way to save her? Being at his wit's end, Xiaochen could only seek help from the Elder Heaven Ancestor. I am also at my wit's end. I can't even neutralize the pure primordial energy in your body. I think there is no other way other than the antidote, the Elder Heaven Ancestor replied helplessly. It can't be? If I am accidentally poisoned in the future, wouldn't I be paralyzed without the antidote? Xiaochen was so depressed that he wanted to bang his head against the wall. How is that possible? You are a cultivator. Your physique is originally completely different from ordinary cultivators. As long as you spend some time, you will be able to neutralize the poison. In the end, it will even become primordial energy, the Elder Heaven Ancestor refuted. This. Xiaochen did not know whether to be happy or worried. Suddenly he heard Tian Suruan murmur, so sleepy? Sister Suruan feels so tired. Let Sister Suruan sleep first. Suruan, don't sleep. Wake up. Xiaoqun was shocked. He hurriedly shook Tian Suruan's arm. However, he could only watch helplessly as she closed her eyes in his arms. He could not help but shout, "Suruan!" "Xiaoqun, don't be nervous. She should have just fainted from the poison. We have to quickly think of a way to find the antidote," Jia Muzin, who was beside Xiaoqun, said in a low voice. Just as Xiaoqun was about to speak, they suddenly heard the roar of an engine coming from afar. Everyone looked up and saw a modified black off-road vehicle speeding toward them not far away. "Found them. They're all here." As soon as the door opened, Jia Huoyin and Tang Qianling nimbly jumped out of the car. They quickly ran toward where everyone was. Tang Qianqi also got out of the car from the driver's side. Chapter 1002. Jia Huoyin had just run a few steps when his sharp eyes spotted the unconscious Tian Suruan, whose eyes were tightly shut. His pale complexion was a clear sign that he had been poisoned. Jia Huoyin's expression immediately changed as he shouted at Xiaoqun, "Take your dirty hands off Souring Horn. Let me handle this." "You have the antidote?" Xiaoqun looked at Jia Huoyin and asked sternly. "I don't have the antidote, but—" Before Jia Huoyin could finish his sentence, Xiaoqun interrupted him with a wave of his hand. "How are you going to cure the poison if you don't have the antidote? Go play somewhere else." Xiaoqun was very impatient. In his opinion, Jia Huoyin must be taking the opportunity to capture Tian Suruan. The antidote was just an excuse. "What do you know? We have special medicine with us. Once Suruan takes it, he will be able to fight poison with poison." Tang Qianling, who was standing beside Jia Huoyin, shouted discontentedly. Xiaoqun frowned. "What nonsense are you talking about? Special medicine? Suruan will die from eating it later. Get lost if you have nothing else to do. Don't cause trouble here." Yee. Tang Qianling crossed his arms in front of his chest and said with a fake smile, "Country bumpkin, you still don't know? Our Tang family is best at refining poison. We are also very knowledgeable about poison. The medicine I brought will definitely not kill you. Not only will you not die, but you can also cultivate a divine skill if you take it. Young Master Ling wants to cure the poison. This is a great favor. Not only are you not grateful, you actually want to chase him away. You really don't know what's good for you." Tang Qianqi chimed in from behind. Xiaoqun glanced at him coldly. Just as he was about to chase him away, he suddenly felt Tian Suruan move in his arms. He suddenly lowered his head. Tian Suruan's eyelashes trembled slightly as she slowly woke up. She looked around blankly and asked in a daze, Is this heaven? Why does it look so familiar, Xiaochang? Could it be that Sister Suruan is still alive?" "Suruan, are you all right now?" Xiaoqun was overjoyed. He looked at Tian Suruan's face. His complexion seemed to be much better than before. Even though Tian Suruan was not a good person, she was kind and straightforward. She was deeply in love with him. Xiaoqun did not want to see anything happen to her. "Our Tang family's bloodline has the ability to detoxify toxins. She woke up on her own." Tang Qianling's eyes flashed with a trace of doubt when he saw this, but he still took the opportunity to show off. "Why are you here? Xiaochang, let's run." Tian Suruan looked up and saw Tang Qianling. He was shocked and pulled Xiaoqun, wanting to run. Tang Qianling ignored Tian Suruan's reaction and said in a solemn voice, "Sour Horn, come with me to the Tang family. The lost divine art of our clan has been found, and it has also been tested. It seems that there are no problems with others cultivating it. You can also cultivate it." "What? Have you found the 5 Poison Secret Manual?" Tian Suruan, who was initially panicking, was shocked. He stared at Tang Qianling with widened eyes, his face filled with disbelief. "Ah, of course. With our Tang family's strength, how difficult would it be to find a secret manual?" Tang Qianling waved his hand nonchalantly. Although it was in front of Xiaoqun and the rest, Tang Qianling did not mind. From his point of view, these people were basically dead people. There was no way for them to spread the news. Actually, this 5 Poison Secret Manual was something that Tang Qianling wanted to cultivate himself. Although someone had already tested it, he still felt that it was not safe enough. Hence, he wanted to bring Tian Suruan back to do this experiment. Moreover, he only planned to take out the first half of the 5 Poison Secret Manual and let Tian Suruan cultivate it. After they had successfully cultivated it, he would take out the entire manual and cultivate it. Then he would be able to achieve great success in this divine art. Hence, the poison that he had planned to give Tian Suruan would not be able to fight poison with poison. Instead, it would slow down the toxicity of Tian Suruan's body and then suddenly erupt. When that happened, she would have to rely on cultivating the 5 poison secret manual to detoxify the poison. It was perfect for the experiment. Unexpectedly, the poison resistance gene in Tian Suruan's body was activated. Although the Tang family's bloodline had the ability to detoxify poison, this gene would only be automatically activated when one reached the martial master level. Hence, Tang Qianling was very surprised. After all, he remembered that when Tian Suruan ran away from home, she was only a martial artist level 1. He did not expect that after staying in the secular world for a few years, she had already reached such a high level. Brother Qianling, from what you said, someone in the Tang family has already tested that secret manual? I wonder how the effect is. Jia Huoyin, who was standing at the side with his arms crossed, suddenly asked. He seemed to be very interested in the 5 poison secret manual. Of course the effect is great. Currently, no one in the Tang family has cultivated it. However, the Tang family's subsidiary sect in the martial world happened to capture a person with the same physique from the secular world and successfully tested it. Although that person's strength is not high, he can easily defeat a Demon King level expert. Tang Qianling was very proud of himself, his saliva flying everywhere. Haha, then I really have to congratulate Brother Qianling. From now on, the Tang family has another poison expert. Jia Huoyin flattered with a face full of envy. Hehe, the little girl who did the experiment is also a beauty. Tang Qianling rolled his eyes and laughed evilly. He patted Jia Huoyin's shoulder and said, "Since you are so interested, when the time comes, I will make the decision and marry her to you as a concubine. But the family can't not give any benefits." "Oh? Really?" Jia Huoyin's eyes lit up. He quickly patted his chest and said, "Big brother Tang, since you're so loyal, I can't just accept it like this. How about this, when I get the position of young patriarch, I'll give big brother some more spiritual jades. It'll be just enough for one more quota." "Ah, brother Jia is really straightforward. Then I will thank you in advance." Tang Qianling was overjoyed and hurriedly settled this matter. Only then did he reveal his objective. "But brother, I'll tell you the truth. Actually, I'm quite concerned about that foreign aid expert. After your family's competition is over, can you return him to me?" Jia Huoyin nodded repeatedly and said, "That is not a problem. After I am done with that expert, I will return him to your side. Anyway, you have given me a beautiful girl and she is also a poison expert. Naturally, I will not take away what you love. And then we have a deal." Tang Qianling and Jia Huoyin were very satisfied with the transaction. Xiaoqun looked at the two of them standing there and saying wretched words unscrupulously. In his heart, he suddenly felt some sympathy for Tian Suruan. The dignified disciples of the 3 big families in the martial world, what kind of quality are they? It is not too much even if you beat them to death. No wonder Tian Suruan wanted to run away from the marriage. Chapter 1003. Although Xiaoqun's expression was full of disdain, Tang Qianling and Jia Huoyin did not care about him at all. They were still standing there, talking cheerfully and wittily, as if Xiaoqun and the others did not exist. "Are you done with your nonsense? If you are, then get lost. Do you want me to send you on your way?" Seeing that Jia Huoyin and the others were chatting endlessly, Xiaoqun simply interrupted them. He stared at Tang Qianling and Jia Huoyin as if he was looking at dead men. The killing intent in his eyes was fleeting. "Brat, previously when we were outside we did not dare to touch you. Now that we are in the territory of the Jia clan, you still dare to act arrogantly? Is your brain flooded with water?" Jia Huoyin was a little surprised. Is this Xiaoqun a fool who has never seen the world? At this time he is still talking glibly with us? That's right. We are keeping you alive only because you can help us mine the spiritual jades. Do you really think that we do not dare to kill you? Tang Qianling raised his eyebrows and said with a face full of disdain. He felt that Xiaoqun was only glib and did not have any real ability. "Young Master Ling, young Master Yan, I think the two of you do not need to talk nonsense with that brat. Apart from talking glibly, he does not have any ability. It is better for me to beat him up." Tang Qinshi had long been unhappy with Xiaoqun's arrogant manner. He quickly rolled up his sleeves and prepared to teach Xiaoqun a lesson. "He do not have any ability? I am not afraid to tell you that I am the external help that Jia Muzhen found. I am preparing to participate in the Jia clan's competition in a few days. How about it?" Xiaoqun carefully helped Tian Suruan to the side of Qing Menjing and said with a smile that was not a smile. "Ha ha ha. Did I hear it wrong? I am dying of laughter. This is the funniest joke I have ever heard in my life." Jia Huoyin convulsed with laughter. "A bastard like Jia Muzhen wants to defeat me? I see that you have not taken your medicine today, right? How could you say such whimsical nonsense? Jia Muzhen clenched his fists tightly and his face turned ashen. However, Jia Huiyan did not care. He felt that Xiao Chen was no longer a fool, but a complete psychopath. Xiao Chen snorted and said sarcastically, "You guys should enjoy a few more days of happiness while you still have some time. After Jia Muzhen becomes the successor, I'm afraid you can only wash your chrysanthemums clean and wait, hee. Humph, with your behavior you still want to help others participate in the Jia clan's tournament? You can't even defeat Qian Qi, let alone the experts I sent to Huiyan." Tang Qianling sneered as he turned to Tang Qianqi and said, "Qianqi, since this kid doesn't know his place, go and teach him a lesson. Let him know that our three families can't be offended by any Tom, Dick, or Harry." "Yes, sir. I have been wanting to deal with him for a long time." Tang Qianqi's spirit was roused. He impatiently circulated his mental cultivation method and displayed the strength of a ninth-layer martial general. He cracked his knuckles as if he was trying to act cool. He turned his neck and slowly walked towards Xiao Chen. "Oh, so powerful. Peak level 9 martial general." Xiao Chen opened his mouth in surprise, and yawned. With a mocking expression he said, "I say, are your fingers suffering from arthritis? If you are sick, go and see a doctor or let me treat you. Forget it, I am afraid you cannot afford the consultation fee. Let it continue ringing. Kit, you are seeking death." Tang Qianqi was furious. He was the most stingy person in his life and loved money as much as his life. However, he hated it when people called him stingy. Now that Xiao Chen had touched his bottom line, he immediately exploded. Although Tang Qianqi was a member of the Tang clan, he was only a concubine's son. He did not have the right to learn how to use poison. Therefore he directly flew over and punched at Xiao Chen's face. Whoosh! The sound of wind breaking rang out. Tang Qianqi had used all his strength and was confident that he could beat Xiao Chen to a pulp. He did not expect that his fist would miss. All that was left in front of him was Xiao Chen's afterimage, which disappeared along with his own force. What is going on? Tang Qianqi looked down at his own fist in bewilderment. Xiao Chen clearly did not move just now. Where did the afterimage come from? "Qianqi, he is behind you." Tang Qianling saw that the situation was not good and hurriedly shouted, "I say, aren't your reactions a little too slow? You actually need someone to remind you. You are a complete piece of trash." Xiao Chen stood behind Tang Qianqi and smiled. He stretched out a finger and lightly flicked the back of Tang Qianqi's head. Ouch! Tang Qianqi felt a strong impact and involuntarily cried out in pain. He was immediately sent flying into the cave of the demonic spider and smashed into pieces of the demonic spider's flesh. Tang Qianqi struggled to raise his head. The crowd saw that his face was covered in blood and his body was stained with the demonic spider's blood. A grayish color instantly spread throughout his body. Before he could make a sound, he collapsed to the ground and fainted. "You are a level 1 demon, honorable?" Jia Huiyan was shocked and stuttered as he looked at Xiao Chen. Jia Huiyan's face was a little pale. If it was not for the weak ghost qi that Xiao Chen released when he released the afterimage, he would not have been able to see through Xiao Chen's strength. He did not expect this weak-looking fellow to be so powerful. Tang Qianling was also stunned for a moment. He then shook his head and said calmly, "Young Master Yan, don't worry. I forgot to tell you that before we came here, Tang Yuanxing had just told me that he has already reached the peak of level 1 martial honorable. I will definitely help you win the grand competition." Ha ha ha. Jia Huiyan's gloomy face immediately brightened up. He laughed a few times and said, "Jia Muzhen, I have really underestimated you. I did not expect you to find a level 1 demon honorable to help you. However, it's useless. Just wait for your death." Jia Huiyan was a little worried when he saw Xiao Chen's strength. However, Tang Qianling's words made him feel a little relieved. Tang Yuanxing was the external help that the Tang family had sent to him. At this moment he was naturally able to stand firm. Jia Muzhen, who had just felt proud, was suddenly shocked. He looked at Xiao Chen worriedly. He wanted to say something but could not say it. "Oh, the peak of level 1? I forgot to tell you that I have been beating peak martial honorables for more than 10 years. Didn't I just beat a peak martial honorable into a cave? I wonder if he is dead or not." Xiao Chen said casually. He did not care. After all, there was not much difference between a level 1 martial honorable and a level 1 martial honorable. At most, he would just need to put in some effort. "Keep bragging. Forget it, young Master Yan, let's go first." However, Xiao Chen, remember, this matter is not over. We will see the results in the grand competition. Tang Qianling said and turned to leave. They were only martial kings, not martial honorables. Therefore they were not a match for Xiaochen. Naturally they would not provoke him anymore. Chapter 1004. After walking a few steps, Tang Qianling suddenly remembered that Tang Qianqi was still paralyzed in the cave. He could only turn around and run over to drag him out. Fortunately, Tang Qianqi was of the Tang family's bloodline. Although he was still unconscious, his genes could slowly neutralize the poison in his body. Musin, it seems like your counterattack has failed. Sorry. I'll make you fall under my feet again, ha ha. Jia Huiyan arrogantly glanced at Jia Musin and sneered, no wonder you dared to swagger back. Turns out that you found a helper. Then let's meet at the family competition. At that time, let me see how you two will make a fool of yourselves. After saying that, Jia Huiyan and Tang Qianling dragged the unconscious Tang Qianqi into the car and left. Xiaochen coldly looked at their backs. He didn't make a move to stop them. Right now, Xiaochen's main goal was to rescue his father. It was easy to kill Jia Huiyan, but he had to wait until Jia Musin became the young patriarch. Only then would he have a justifiable reason to kill Jia Huiyan. He couldn't act impulsively now and cause trouble. After the car disappeared into the distance, Xiaochen suddenly turned his head and asked, Saori, that Tang Qianling said that you are suitable to cultivate the 5 poison secret manual. He also said that if you eat too much poison, it will increase your strength. What's going on? Tian Saori frowned and thought for a moment before explaining, Sister Saori, when I was young, I heard a bit about it. Because our Tang family is proficient in refining and using poison, especially our direct descendants, they have outstanding talent in this aspect. Moreover, I don't know what kind of heavenly treasure the Tang family's ancestors used or did, but the Tang family's descendants all have a special gene in their blood that can resist any poison. Therefore, in ancient times, the Tang family's ancestors used this advantage to create their own 5 poison secret manual, making it unparalleled in the world. What happened after that? I heard from that Tang Aiqian that the 5 poison secret manual disappeared for a while. What happened? Xiaochen inquired. This 5 poison secret manual must be the one he found in the cave and sold at the auction. It seemed like it had fallen into the hands of the Tang family. Later on, this secret manual attracted the covetous eyes of various big sects and families. Someone stole it and caused a bloodbath in the martial arts world. In the end, the secret manual disappeared for some reason. Tian Soran spread his hands. So perverted? Since your Tang clan has already obtained the secret manual, there should be a lot of experts emerging. How come that trash with the surname Tang only knows how to throw punches and is so weak? Xiaochen was a little puzzled as he asked. The martial technique that Tang Qianqi had used earlier was very ordinary. It did not contain any technique at all. He did not use any poison either. That was why Xiaochen found it strange. I know that. At this time, Jia Musin's mood had already calmed down. Hearing this, he interrupted and said, because that Tang Qianqi is a collateral descendant of the Tang family, he doesn't have the qualifications to cultivate the 5 poison secret manual. Only direct descendants like Tang Qianling and Tian Suruan can cultivate it. This is the rule set by the big families in the martial arts world. I can't cultivate the secret manual of our Jia clan. Xiaochen patted Jia Musin on the shoulder. Just as he was about to comfort him, he heard Tian Soran objecting with a horrified face. Not cultivating it might be a good thing. Sister Soran heard that to cultivate the 5 poison secret manual, you need the help of a lot of poisons. A little carelessness can lead to death. Sister Soran doesn't want to die young. But didn't the surname Tang just say that someone has succeeded in cultivating it? Is there a shortcut? Xiaochen asked as he rubbed his chin. A thought suddenly flashed through his mind like a spark. However, it happened too quickly. By the time he wanted to capture it, he had already forgotten. Sister Sour has heard that some people are born with special poisons in their bodies. If these people were to cultivate the 5 poison secret manual, their success rate would be greatly increased. Moreover, the power of their martial skills would be several times stronger than other cultivators. Tian Soran brushed the grass and leaves off his body and said casually, but this is just a rumor. The Tang family has not found anyone with this kind of physique. Tang. Didn't Tang have this kind of physique? Xiaochen's mind was like a bolt of lightning. The name that appeared in his mind for a moment was Tang. No wonder he felt a little strange before. Could it be that the person who was captured from the secular world was Tang? Alas. If he had known this, he would have given her the 5 poison secret manual directly so that she wouldn't have to leave his side. Soran, when the time comes, You'd better promise the Tang family to cultivate the 5 poisons secret manual. During this time you have been leveling up slower than others. Maybe you are more suitable to cultivate the 5 poisons secret manual? After changing his expression for a while, Xiaoqun collected his thoughts and analyzed rationally. Okay. Sister Soran will listen to you. Tian Soran nodded obediently. She felt that Xiaoqun would not lie to her. She was just a little reluctant to leave Xiaoqun. In fact, Xiaoqun himself had the elixir to cultivate the 5 poisons secret manual. He was going to give it to Tian Soran. After he found it in the ruins, he had been carrying it with him, but he could not find a chance to use it. Waving away the thoughts of Tang Tang in his mind, Xiaoqun took Tian Soran's hand and checked her pulse. After confirming that all the toxins in her body had been removed, he was relieved and joked. So, should I call you Tang Soran or Tian Soran in the future? Of course Tian Soran. The name Tang Soran is so ugly. Sister Soran doesn't want to use it. Tian Soran put on a disgusted expression. Suddenly she saw a flash of light from the corner of her eyes. She was shocked and hid behind Xiaoqun. Pointing to the cave of the giant spider, she whispered, Xiaoqun, that cave just glowed. Is there a monster hiding in there? It can't be, right? Xiaoqun and the others happened to have their backs to the cave, so they did not notice the abnormal phenomenon. Hearing this, they turned to look and found nothing. Just when he was about to turn back and say that Tian Soran was being paranoid, he suddenly felt something flash in front of his eyes through the reflection of the sunlight. Xiaoqun was shocked and immediately released his divine sense to check. There were no other demon spiders in the cave. But when Tang Qianqi plunged into the cave, the soil around the cave had collapsed a little. Something had revealed a sharp edge. The flash just now was from it. What is that? Xiaoqun muttered in confusion. He found a new pickaxe and walked over. He carefully dug around the sharp edge. Jia Muzin also picked up the pickaxe and walked over to help dig. Gradually, the monster in Tian Soran's mouth was revealed. Chapter 1005. It's spiritual jade. It looks like it's quite big. Jia Muzin took a closer look and slapped his thigh excitedly. That's right, it's indeed spiritual jade. TSK, the quality is quite good. There must be ferocious beasts around spiritual jade. The ancients did not lie. We've struck it rich this time. Xiaoqun was also very happy. He had searched far and wide for these spiritual jades, only to find them by chance. With these spiritual jades, it would definitely not be a problem for him to fly to the Heavenly Jade Mine's main mining area. He could even leave a portion for himself and Cheng Menjing to cultivate. The two of them dug for a while and found more spiritual jades near the cave. They threw away all the compressed biscuits and mineral water in their backpacks and stored the spiritual jades in their backpacks. With the spiritual jades to replenish his energy, Xiaoqun was a lot more relieved. When his backpack was full to the brim, there were still a lot of spiritual jades in the cave that had not been dug out. Xiaoqun thought about it and decided to bury the cave again, until there was not a single trace of it left. Since he could not take it away, he might as well preserve it in case he needed it in the future. Now that the supplies were ready, Xiaoqun took out the flying sword and asked everyone to stand on it. Jia Muzin stood at the front to guide the way while Xiaoqun stood behind him to control the direction of the flying sword. Behind them were Tian Suruan, Ling Er, and Ling Qianxue. Finally, Cheng Menjing brought up the rear. Cheng Menjing was also a cultivator. Under Xiaoqun's guidance, she also knew how to control the flying sword. She stood at the rear to assist Xiaoqun in controlling the flying sword and to protect everyone's safety. After everyone was ready, Xiaoqun and Cheng Menjing simultaneously injected their spiritual energy into the flying sword. The flying sword rose into the air and quickly flew towards the main mining area. After flying for about 2 hours, the group finally arrived at the main mining area. However, Xiaoqun did not immediately land on the flying sword. Instead, he stayed in the air and carefully observed the situation in the mining area. The scene here was very different from the outskirts of the mine where Xiaoqun and the others had just come in. There were people everywhere and they were all busy. Most of them were dressed like miners. They all held pickaxes and were working hard to dig. There was also a team that was constantly patrolling the area. At the very front was a neatly dressed man who looked like a manager. He had an arrogant expression on his face as he led a group of disciples to monitor the miners from above. They all had whips in their hands, and as long as they didn't like someone, they would go up and give them a good beating. Even if the other party was old, weak, sick, or disabled, they wouldn't show any mercy. Humph. The manager standing at the very front is the Jia family's Jia Yutian. The lackeys beside him are also disciples of the Jia family. They often rely on their special status to bully the miners for no reason. Moreover, the patriarch has never gotten involved. Jia Muzin also saw this scene and angrily said, "Mother ***, these guys don't have any humanity at all. They're practically as rich as the landlords in the feudal society." Just as Xiaoqin finished speaking, a disciple of the Jia family suddenly cursed and waved his whip, ruthlessly lashing at an old man's body. Looking at these people who were being beaten, Xiaoqin felt a pain in his heart. He couldn't help but think of his own father. No matter how he looked at it, his heart didn't feel good. He didn't continue watching and directly jumped down from the flying sword in midair. He rushed towards the person who hit the old man and gave him a flying kick. That person, who was in the middle of whipping, was suddenly kicked heavily. He let out a blood-curdling scream and flew several zhang away. With a plop, he fell to the ground. After twitching twice, he stopped moving. It was very obvious that he was already dead. All of this happened too quickly. Only after that person had died did the housekeeper Jia Yutian react. Immediately he flew into a rage. Jia Yutian was the follower of Jia Huoyan's father, Jia Yubian. Although Jia Yubian wasn't the family head, his status in the Jia family was extremely high. The Jia family also pursued the strategy of choosing the family head. After all, the old family head was still alive. If the power of the family changed too quickly, it would be easy for problems to arise. Although Jia Yubian wasn't the family head, he was the elder of the family. Because of this, Jia Yutian's status had also risen. Usually when everyone saw him, they would nod and bow to him. They would try their best to flatter him. But now, someone actually dared to kill his subordinate in front of him. How dare you? Where did this madman come from? He actually dares to cause trouble in the heavenly jade mine. Jia Yutian was shocked and angry. He was so angry that he waved his hand at the subordinates beside him. He pointed at Xiaoqin and said fiercely, "All of you go. Capture that troublemaker and beat him to death for me. We won't stop until he's dead." Qing Minjing was shocked. She hurriedly controlled her flying sword to descend to a lower altitude. Jia Muzin and the other women jumped down one after the other and ran in the direction of Xiaoqin. "I want to see who dares to make a move." Jia Muzin ran in front and roared at the Jia family disciples who were closing in on Xiaoqin. When those disciples saw Xiaoqin's brutal methods, they were a little afraid. They were afraid that they would also be kicked to death. So when they heard someone shout for them to stop, they stopped. When they turned their heads to look at the person who had come, they were suddenly stunned. Who is it this time? Jia Yutian was about to go crazy from anger. He felt that his dignity had been greatly challenged. Jia Muzin ran to the front, glared at Jia Yutian and coldly said, "Although these people are workers of our Jia family's mine, they are still raised by their father and mother. How can you take advantage of your power to bully others and deal such a heavy blow to them?" It turned out that the Heavenly Jade Mine originally hired people to mine. However, in order to save costs, they had been capturing people to do hard labor. Especially when they heard that the cultivators in the secular world generally didn't have any background, they simply used deception and intimidation to get these cultivators to come here. When the cultivators from the secular world came to the inner martial world, they were all blind. After coming here, if they didn't listen, they would be beaten up. After a few beatings, they would definitely be obedient. Jia Muzin had always disliked this style of the family. In the past, he had raised several opinions in the family, but they were all mercilessly ridiculed and refuted. Later he left in anger. This was also partly because of this reason. "Oh, I was wondering who was so unreasonable. Isn't this the little bastard who was kicked out of the Jia family?" Only then did Jia Yutian clearly see that the person who had come was Jia Muzin. He was startled at first, but soon after he looked at him with a fake smile and said, "Jia Muzin, in this place you don't have the qualifications to educate me. Don't be *** king dog and meddle in other people's business. If you provoke me, don't blame me for being impolite. If there's nothing else, quickly get lost." Jia Yutian wasn't afraid of Jia Muzin. He just didn't intend to make the matter bigger. After all, he also knew that many people in the mine were dissatisfied with the Jia family. If he had a conflict with them and they went on strike, it would be very troublesome to suppress them. And the most important thing was that it would make his master, Jia Yubian, very unhappy. At that time he would inevitably be scolded. Chapter 1006. Furthermore, the opening of the Honorable Mystic Realm was approaching. If the miners went on strike at this critical moment, it would not be as simple as a scolding. They might even lose their jobs. Therefore, Jia Yutian's first reaction was to avoid trouble. He wanted to chase Jia Muzin away as soon as possible. You're just a lackey, yet you're talking big. I'm going to interfere in today's matter. If you have the guts, try and touch me. Jia Muzin did not move or panic. He looked at Jia Yutian coldly and said in a deep voice, F***ck, I'm giving you face, yet you don't want it? Let's try. I've been wanting to teach you a lesson for a long time. Jia Yutian saw that there was no way to resolve this matter. He waved his hand and ordered his subordinates, attack. Beat him until he can't take care of himself, then throw him out to feed the dogs. The disciples of the Jia family picked up their weapons and charged at Jia Muzin. More than 10 of them surrounded him. Although Jia Muzin was a branch disciple of the clan, this group of disciples were all from Jia Yubian, Jia Huiyan's faction. They did not think much of Jia Muzin in the first place. Compared to surrounding and attacking Xiao Qin, they were more willing to deal with this stray dog who had fled in defeat. Tisk, you're overestimating yourself. Jia Muzin sneered. He circulated his elemental force and revealed his cultivation. Before the disciples of the Jia family could make a move, he waved his palm and slapped the person closest to him. Ah. Ah. Before the disciples of the Jia clan could react, a few of them were sent flying by Jia Muzin in an instant. Every wail was accompanied by a silhouette that flew out and fell to the ground. The other disciples were scared silly and stood blankly on the spot. They didn't know whether they should rush forward or run away. You're already at the martial general perfection realm? Jia Yutian was shocked. He frowned and immediately released his strength. He was an expert at the martial king perfection realm. What's the use of a martial general perfection realm? Jia Yutian looked up to the sky and laughed. He slapped at Jia Muzin and shouted, Little bastard, since you're courting death, I'll fulfill your wish. Pretend you're mother's egg. Before the imposing Jia Yutian could reach Jia Muzin, a voice suddenly rang out, followed by the sound of wind breaking coming from the side. Jia Yutian tilted his head and saw the sole of a shoe rapidly kicking towards him. He wanted to dodge but found that it was too late. Bang! A muffled sound rang out. Jia Yutian was ruthlessly kicked by Xiao Qin, and he flew out with a blood-curdling scream. After he landed on the ground, he struggled to stand up. However, Xiao Qin stomped him down again, causing him to hiss in pain and suck in a breath of cold air. If I didn't want to keep you alive to ask some questions, I would have kicked you to death. You're just a small martial king perfection. How dare you try to compete with me? Xiao Qin grabbed Jia Yutian's loose hair, lifted him up, and punched him in the abdomen. Oh. Jia Yutian spat out a mouthful of blood and looked at Xiao Qin in disbelief. He said in fear, Cough cough, you're a first-level martial venerable. Who the hell are you? When Xiao Qin kicked his disciple, Jia Yutian did not pay attention to his strength. Now that he found out that he was a martial venerable, he almost wet his pants. Jia Yutian could not help but be afraid. Even the Jia family did not have many martial venerables. Where did this guy come from? He had never seen such a person in the martial arts world. I don't mind telling you, I'm your young master Jia Muzin's helper in the foreign aid competition. Xiao Qin cast a sidelong glance at Jia Yutian and said with a cold smile, This young master just beat up those two fools, Jia Huiyan and Tang Qianling outside. Your status is too lowly, you don't deserve to know my name. Your Big B's helper? Jia Yutian looked at Xiao Qin's lower body subconsciously. His ears were ringing from the kick, so he did not hear the first half of Xiao Qin's words. When he saw Xiao Qin raise his fist again, he quickly shook his head. Only then did he realize the second half of Xiao Qin's words. He was so frightened that he collapsed to the ground. He said in a panic, This young hero, I have eyes but fail to recognize you. I didn't mean to offend you. Please be merciful and let me go. Don't say such useless things. Tell me, is there a person named Xiao Feng in this heavenly jade mine? Where is he now? Let him go immediately. Xiao Qin grabbed Jia Yutian's hair and shouted angrily. So, Feng? I've never heard of this person. Jia Yutian shook his head. Before he finished speaking, Xiao Qin became impatient. With a gloomy face, he grabbed two of Jia Yutian's fingers and forcefully twisted them. Crack. Two crisp sounds of bones breaking could be heard. Jia Yutian did not expect Xiao Qin to make a move without saying a word. He was caught off guard and felt a sharp pain in his left hand. It was so painful that tears were about to fall. He wailed loudly, Ah! Young hero, spare me. Let me think again. Think again. Don't make a move first. Well, sure. Then think about it. Xiao Qin agreed immediately. Just as Jia Yuqian breathed a sigh of relief, he smiled and said, "But let me tell you, you still have 8 fingers, which means you have 4 chances. From now on, every 30 seconds I will break your fingers and then." Xiaoqin did not continue speaking. He made a you-know expression. Although there was a smile at the corner of his mouth, there was no smile in his eyes at all. Okay. I'll start thinking right away. That person's name is Xiao Feng, right? He should be a man, right? What does he look like? Is there anyone as handsome as you, young hero? Jia Yuqian was sweating profusely and kept asking questions. At this time in his eyes, Xiaoqian's smile was as scary as the devil's. On the surface he kept asking questions, but in fact Jia Yuqian wanted to buy more time. His mind kept recalling the name Xiao Feng, but he had no impression of it at all. Now I'll start counting from 1 to 30. If you still haven't figured it out, hee. Naturally, Xiaoqian could see Jia Yuqian's plan. He was too lazy to talk nonsense with him. He started counting calmly. 1, 30, time's up. Crack. Ah. Another 2 crisp sounds rang out. Although Jia Yuqian had already used his martial qi to protect his fingers in advance, it was completely useless. They were still easily broken by Xiaoqian. He rolled on the ground in pain and nearly fainted. Hurry up. Don't waste my time. Xiaoqian looked at Jia Yuqian coldly and said, I've lost my patience. Next time I'll break all your fingers and you'll have to eat with your toes for the rest of your life. Xiaoqian was also worried that someone would secretly inform the Jia family, so he did not want to waste any more time. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if the Jia family's experts came to rescue him. Chapter 1007. Wait. I have some impression of him. It's Xiao Feng, right? Let's go to the archives room. We can definitely find his information there. Jia Yuqian trembled and immediately stood up from the ground. He pointed his middle finger at the archives room not far away and said in a hoarse voice. He had no choice. His other fingers were either injured or broken by Xiaoqian. This was the only one he could use. Xiaoqian did not say much. He directly dragged Jia Yuqian to the archives room. At the same time, he instructed Jia Muzin and the girls to stay where they were and keep an eye on the other disciples of the Jia family. They could not let them escape in case someone reported to the Jia family. Qing Minjing, who had been standing at the side, suddenly thought of something. She said a few words to Jia Muzin and hurriedly ran to Xiaoqian's side and walked with him to the archives room. The 3 of them arrived at the archives room and opened the door. Xiaoqian could not help but be a little surprised. He did not expect there to be a computer in the inner martial arts world. It looked quite modern and was probably used to store information. Sure enough, Jia Yuqian skillfully turned on the computer and quickly opened a document on the desktop to check. Because his fingers were not very good, the progress was a little slow. Xiaoqian stared at Jia Yuqian's movements. Just when he felt impatient and was about to make a move, Jia Yuqian suddenly cheered. I found it. Xiaoqian and Qing Minjing suddenly turned their heads and stared at the document on the computer. Look, there is a record here. In the beginning, a member of the Jia family heard that spirit stones were found in the Hakanamata desert. He wanted to investigate whether there was a spirit jade mine. However, he did not find the spirit jade mine. Instead, he met a small team from the secular world who participated in the trial. At that time, the team happened to be in danger. Except for Xiao Feng and Qing Zhongqian, the rest were all dead. Jia Yuqian looked at the text on the screen and read it in detail. Jia Yuqian quickly moved the mouse button and turned to the next page of the document. He continued to read, after the Jia family rescued Xiao Feng and Qing Zhongqian, they tricked them. Ahem, brought them to the Chanyu mine and let them participate in the collection of spirit jade. What did you say? Uncle is not dead. Then where is he now? Tell me. When Qing Minjing saw Jia Yuqian's name on the computer screen, her breathing quickened. She grabbed Jia Yuqian's collar excitedly and shook him vigorously a few times. When Qing Minjing was young, apart from her father, Qing Zhongming, her uncle, Qing Zhongqian, was the person who loved her the most. Moreover, her marriage to Xiaoqian was also arranged by Qing Zhongqian, so she had deep feelings for this uncle since she was young. Just now, when Xiaoqian took Jia Yuqian to the archive room, she also followed, just to find out the whereabouts of her uncle. Cough cough. Jia Yuqian's breathing became labored and his face turned red. He wanted to say something but he couldn't. Minjing, don't worry. My father and your 3rd uncle will be fine. Xiaoqian gently hugged Qing Minjing's shoulders to make her relax a little. Qing Minjing's tightened shoulders slightly relaxed and she let go of Jia Yuqian. Jia Yuqian bent down and gasped for breath. Before he could recover, Xiao Chen turned around and slapped him on the head. He said impatiently, "Don't play dead, continue to investigate. Who had brought them to the mine? And how did that person lie to them?" As a peak martial king, Jia Yutian naturally wouldn't be so weak. He just wanted to buy time. Now that he was exposed by Xiao Chen, he felt a little embarrassed. He hurriedly continued to read, "The person who brought them here is Elder Jia Yubian, the father of the next family head, Jia Huoyan. The reason he lied to them was that he had elixirs that could help people who couldn't become cultivators to practice, so, although he was reading the information calmly, Jia Yutian secretly remembered what Xiao Chen had said. It turned out that one of them was looking for his father, and the other was looking for his uncle. When he returned, he would report to the family head. Bang! Before Jia Yutian finished reading, Xiao Chen clenched his fist and fiercely punched the table. Jia Yutian was so scared that he almost jumped up. He quickly dodged. "Turtle Whip, what a slut's name." Xiao Chen was so angry that he sneered and said, "That turtle took advantage of my father's eagerness to find elixirs and made up such a dirty lie to deceive people. It seems that after I deal with Jia Huoyan, I will use this turtle to make soup." "So, Hero Xiao, I have already found out what you said. Can you just treat me as a fart and let me go?" Although Jia Yuqian was very unhappy with Xiao Chen's insolent attitude, he was currently under someone else's control, so he could only put on a brave face and ask carefully. Since Xiao Feng was his father, his surname should also be Xiao, right? "What's the hurry? I have one last question. Answer it and I will let you go." Xiao Chen stared at Jia Yuqian expressionlessly and said coldly. At this time the door opened and they turned to look. Jia Yuqian thought that someone had come to save him, and his eyes burst with joy. However, when he saw that the person who walked in was Jia Muzin, he lowered his head dejectedly. "Why are you here? What happened outside?" Cheng Minjing stood at the side and asked softly. "Nothing, I just saw that you guys haven't come out for so long and I was a little worried so I came to take a look." Jia Muzin shook his head. Xiao Chen slapped Jia Yutian's head again and asked, "Speak, where are my father and Cheng Zhongqian now?" Chapter 1008. This is the Jia family's core secret. Maybe even young Master Huoyan doesn't know about it. I guess only Jia. Elder Yupian knows about it. The strength of Honorable Xiao Chen wasn't something that Cheng Minjing could compare with. Jia Yuqian felt like he was being squeezed tightly by an iron hoop. He was out of breath and couldn't even speak properly. This time he didn't lie. Only the core members of the Jia family can come into contact with the secret experiments. They should be at least at the level of an elder. Only then would they know the details. Jia Muzin was aware of this situation. When he heard this he added, "In that case this question is invalid. I'll ask you another question. As long as you answer it honestly, I'll let you live." Xiao Chen nodded and slightly loosened his grip on his neck. Jia Yuqian nodded repeatedly and desperately breathed in fresh air. He felt dizzy. Xiao Chen looked at him coldly and asked lightly, "Did you hit my father?" No. Of course not. How could I dare to hit Hero Zhao's father?" Jia Yuqian immediately denied. If he admitted that he had hit Xiao Chen's father, would it be any good? Crack. Xiao Chen slightly tightened his grip, and the sound of bones breaking was heard again. Jia Yuqian opened his mouth wide in shock and desperately wanted to beg for mercy. His eyes were bulging like a goldfish, but he could only make a ho-ho sound. His neck had been broken by Xiao Chen. He didn't even have the chance to struggle. It didn't take long before he breathed his last breath and lowered his head softly. "I hate people who lie to me the most. Look at you. You bully the weak and fear the strong. It would be strange if you didn't beat my father." Xiao Chen loosened his grip. Jia Yuqian collapsed on the ground like a pile of mud. His neck was twisted into a strange shape. He stared at the roof with his eyes wide open. Until his death, he didn't know the name of the person who killed him. Xiao Chen checked the information in the computer again. After confirming that there was no more information about his father and the Cheng family's youngest uncle, he turned off the computer and prepared to go out with Jia Muzin and Cheng Minjing. He wanted to ask a few other girls to go to the Jia family together. But before they could reach the door was pushed open again with a bang. Tian Suruan ran in. "What's wrong, Sour?" Seeing Tian Suruan's slightly excited yet slightly panicked expression, Xiao Chen was a little confused and asked in astonishment. "They're fighting. There's a fight outside." Tian Wangsho panted a few times, jumping and pointing outside the door. "What?" Jia Muzin's complexion changed. He quickly walked to the door and looked outside. He saw that the people outside were clearly divided into two camps. Most of the miners were waving the pickaxes in their hands angrily. They formed groups of 3 to 5 and rushed toward the disciples of the Jia clan. Both sides were fighting each other. The scene was very chaotic and bloodshed occurred from time to time. Didn't you guys just beat up that Jia something Tian and dragged him away? The group of miners seemed to be very happy. They were discussing that there was finally someone who could deal with this fellow. Tian Suruan added from behind him. Then that group of lackeys of the Jia clan became unhappy and scolded them. Some of them even went up and wanted to whip them like before. In the end they pushed and shoved each other and a fight broke out. Xiao Qin and Cheng Menjing looked at each other. Although they were not standing at the door, they could hear the noise coming from outside. Xiao Qin guessed that the miners must have been suppressing their grievances for many years. Now that there was a breakthrough, they finally erupted. Where's Chen Shua and Ling, or how are they? Cheng Menjing pulled Tian Suruan and asked anxiously. Ling took Chen Shua and hid far away. If Sister Suruan didn't run fast enough, she might have been implicated. Tian Suruan patted his chest with lingering fear. Seeing that the conflict outside was getting more and more intense and was about to turn into a large-scale bloodshed, Xiao Chen was just about to ask Jia Muzhen how to handle it when he suddenly pulled the door open and rushed out. Everyone, don't get agitated. Calm down. Let me say something fair. Jia Muzhen quickly ran into the mine, found a relatively tall stone pile and stood on it. He displayed his martial general full-circle cultivation and shouted at the chaotic crowd. Many people who were at the periphery of the fight stopped when they heard Jia Muzhen's words. However, the people at the center of the fight were already in a frenzy, and no one paid any attention to him. Jia Muzhen did not repeat himself. His figure flashed and directly rushed into the crowd. He pulled out the people who were fighting fiercely and threw them in different directions. Although he was only a martial general full circle level 10, he was much more powerful than these miners and lackeys. After throwing out a few people, everyone finally quietened down. The miners and the descendants of the Jia clan all looked at Jia Muzhen eagerly. The miners knew that Jia Muzhen was not as black-hearted as the other members of the Jia clan. Just now it was his companion who saw injustice and stood up for them. Therefore they were willing to listen to how he would solve the problem. In the eyes of the descendants of the Jia clan, only Jia Muzhen was a member of the family. Although he was a collateral descendant, he was the only one who could control the situation. Where's the deputy supervisor of the mine? Jia Muzhen saw that the situation had stabilized a little, so he returned to the pile of rocks and shouted at the Jia clan's disciples. There was a commotion in the crowd, but it quickly calmed down. No one stepped forward. Jia Muzhen frowned and shouted again, "Deputy supervisor of the mine, step forward immediately. Restrain the disciples of the Jia clan. Without my orders, no one is allowed to lay a hand on the miners. Otherwise I won't just throw people away next time. I'll kill them. Do you hear me?" "Young Master Muzhen, I'm the deputy supervisor here, Jia Hongyong." This time, a tall and skinny man finally walked out from the crowd. He respectfully bowed to Jia Muzhen and said, "What should I do next?" "I'll listen to everything you say." The reason why Jia Hongyong did not step forward immediately was that he was still hesitant. After all, he was only a deputy supervisor who had been bullied by Jia Yuqian all year round. He had no authority over the affairs of the mine and did not dare to criticize Xiao Qin and Jia Muzhen. Therefore, he hesitated for a moment before stepping forward. Jia Muzhen was stunned. Just as he was about to ask him why he did not say anything before, he suddenly saw the firm look in Jia Hongyong's eyes. Jia Muzhen's eyes flashed, and he instantly understood what was going on. This person was probably not on the same side as Jia Huoyan and Jia Yubian in the mine. Therefore he had always been depressed and could only be a supporting character. Now that he saw his powerful ability and the hope of becoming the young patriarch, coupled with the fact that Jia Yuqian had been trampled on, he made up his mind to come and pledge his allegiance. Thinking of this, Jia Muzhen nodded. He looked at him deeply and said, "How about this? Later you can find a reason and say that Jia Yuqian died in a mine accident. I think you should know what to do. As long as you handle things well after the competition, I'll think of a way to make you the supervisor of the mine." Chapter 1009. Yes, I understand. Rest assured, young Master Muzhen. I promise that you and the others will not be implicated. Jia Hongyong promised. Oh. Also, don't let the Jia clan's disciples beat up the workers anymore. Don't deduct the workers' wages at will either. They work so hard every day, so they must eat well 3 times a day. Their living quarters must also be comfortable. Jia Muzin thought for a while and continued, if any worker has a legitimate reason to leave the mine, you must agree to their request unconditionally. Do you understand? No problem, young Master Muzin. I promise to do as you say. Jia Hongyong nodded in agreement. Xiao Qin, who had been standing behind the pile of rocks and watching, was a little surprised. He didn't expect that Jia Muzin, who looked dull, would have such courage to command his subordinates. It seemed that he was a talent that could be molded. Jia Muzin jumped down from the pile of rocks and gave a few instructions to the miners. He said that if any of them wanted to resign and go home, they could apply immediately. However, they would have to wait until he became the head of the family and completed the task of mining spiritual jades before they could be officially released. However, if they wanted to come back to mine in the future, the Jia family would welcome them at any time. After hearing Jia Muzin's words, many of the miners happily accepted Jia Muzin's suggestion and went to find Jia Hongyong to register. After all, they had not returned home for a long time. Under such inhumane work, everyone missed their families. Although there were many miners who applied to go home, they all promised that they would come back to mine after visiting their families. In any case, the salary here was quite high, and Jia Muzin didn't seem to be as unreasonable as Jia Yutian. It would be very pleasant to work under him. After arranging the relevant matters, Jia Muzin planned to bring Xiao Chen and the others back to the Jia family. There was no longer any value in staying in the mine. Moreover, if Xiao Chen wanted to investigate the matter of Xiao Feng and Cheng Zhongqian, he would have to wait until he became the head of the family to get in touch with him. Jia Muzin and his party drove the special car that was used to pick up people in the mine and sped towards the direction of the Jia clan. Jia Muzin, who was going home again, was a little nervous. He didn't know what kind of treatment he would receive. Fortunately, he had a capable helper like Xiao Chen. Otherwise, he wouldn't have the courage to return to that disappointing place. In the evening, everyone arrived at the Jia clan. After parking the car, Jia Muzin found a disciple and asked the clan head where Jia Jinyan was. After all, he was still a member of the Jia clan. Although he had left in anger, now that he was back, he had to report to the clan leader first. After the disciple recognized Jia Muzin, he told him that Jia Jinyan was in the conference room, holding a meeting with the family members. He suggested that Jia Muzin wait in the living room for a while until they finished their meeting. However, after thinking about it, Jia Muzin still brought Xiao Chen and the others to the conference room. He had been waiting for this day for too long. When he returned to the Jia family, he didn't want to wait any longer. He wanted to directly prove to Jia Jinyan that he had the ability to become the successor of the family head. Father, I don't think it's possible that Jia Yutian died in a mining accident. There must be something strange about it. We must send an investigation team to investigate the cause of his death thoroughly and punish the perpetrators severely. Otherwise, others will think that our Jia clan is easy to be bullied. In the conference room, Jia Yubian was frowning and said indignantly. While Jia Muzin and the others were driving to the Jia family, Jia Hongyong had already sent back the news of Jia Yutian's death. When Jia Yubian learned about it, he flew into a rage and cursed Jia Hongyong. He also strongly questioned Jia Yubian's statement of the mine accident. Jia Yubian knew Jia Yutian too well. This guy usually acted like a tyrant in the mine and patrolled everywhere, but he never went down to the mine to check the situation, let alone encountered a mining accident. There must be a trap. Maybe he was killed by someone with ulterior motives. However, no matter how Jia Yubian threatened or hinted, Jia Hongyong insisted that Jia Yutian had encountered a mining accident. This made Jia Yubian feel helpless like a dog trying to bite a hedgehog, and he was very depressed. No way. Jia Jinyan, who was sitting in the clan head's seat, shook his head and rejected Jia Yubian's proposal without hesitation. Jia Yubian was stunned. In the past, Jia Jinyan would listen to any suggestions he made, and most of them would be adopted or at least discussed with him. This was the first time he rejected it like this. Jia Jinyan saw his stunned expression and explained patiently, Yubian, you know that the venerable mystic realm is about to open, and now is the final stage of mining spiritual jades. It is absolutely not appropriate to investigate wantonly. It will make the people in the mine anxious, and who will have the mood to mine spiritual jades. So, all of this can wait until the mystic realm closes. This. Jia Yubian felt as if he had punched cotton, and he had nowhere to exert force. He also knew the importance of the venerable mystic realm. The Jia clan relied on providing spiritual jades to occupy a place in the martial arts world. If they dropped the ball at this critical moment, it would be difficult for them in the future. However, Jia Yubian was not willing to lose the control of the heavenly jade mine. Jia Yubian changed his approach and said, "Father, I understand what you said, but the heavenly jade mine can't be without a supervisor for a long time. This will also affect the mining. I suggest that we send another person to take charge of the situation, in case those miners find an opportunity to cause trouble." Big brother, didn't father say that? Everything can wait until the venerable mystic realm is over before investigating. In the past, when Jia Yuqian was not in charge of the heavenly jade mine, the mine could still maintain its production, right? You don't have to be too anxious. Sitting at the other end of the table, a middle-aged man who looked somewhat similar to Jia Yubian picked up a teacup and said unhurriedly. This person's name was Jia Yuto, and he was Jia Yubian's younger brother. He was in charge of the family's outreach work with other sections. This outreach work was also a very lucrative job. After all, the Jia clan guarded the heavenly jade mine, which was a treasure mountain. Basically, they did not need to go up to other sects to curry favor with them. They would take the initiative to come to them and ask for more cooperation. Naturally, they would also show their respect to Jia Yuto, who was in charge of the outreach work. Jia Yuto was also very smart. Since taking over the outreach work, he had screened the sects that came to him. He had gained the support of many leaders of the ancient sects, so that the spiritual jades mined by the Jia clan could be used to the greatest extent. Therefore, he had become an important figure in the Jia clan. He was equally famous as Jia Yubian, and was also an elder. Jia Jinyan also valued him. Jia Jinyan had a total of 3 sons. In addition to Jia Yubian and Jia Yuto, there was originally a third son called Jia Yulin, who was Jia Muzin's father. However, a long time ago he and his wife died in an accident while carrying out a mission, leaving Jia Muzin as his only son. Chapter 10:10. Because of this, Jia Muzin's status in the family plummeted. He was pushed from the core of the family to a collateral relative. As Jia Yulin had always been an upright person with a strong sense of justice, he had offended his 2 elder brothers, Jia Yubian and Jia Yuto. Therefore, many people in the Jia clan guessed in private that it was one of them who had secretly attacked Jia Yulin. At that time, he and his wife had carried out a very simple escort mission. In theory, there should be no danger. Unexpectedly, they were intercepted and killed by a master on the way. That was why both of them lost their lives. At that time, Jia Jinyan was extremely angry because of this. He had offered a large reward for the arrest of the murderer. However, there was no clue. In the end, the case was left unsettled, which became a great shame for the Jia family. What, do you know? Those workers are all lowlifes. If there's no one in charge to control them, I reckon that it won't be long before they go on strike and stir up trouble. When that time comes, can you take responsibility? Jia Yubian glared at Jia Yuto. Obviously, he was very annoyed by Jia Yuto's indifferent attitude. Humph, if Jia Yuqian was not so black-hearted and bullied the workers all day long, why would they be dissatisfied with the Jia family? Jia Yuto curled his lips. Jia Yubian's eyes widened. When he was about to refute, he saw Jia Yuto gently knock on the table and said calmly, "Brother, don't doubt me. I heard that Jia Yuqian not only embezzled wages and filled his own pockets, but also often ordered his men to abuse the miners. I think those workers have long wanted to rebel." Nonsense. Jia Yubian slammed the table and said loudly, "Jia Yuqian usually follows me. I know best what kind of person he is. You don't need to frame him here." "Brother, why are you so agitated?" Jia Yuto glanced at him coldly. "It is because you usually do not discipline him that you are worried about the consequences after something happened to him. TSK, I don't know how much of the money Jia Yuqian embezzled went into his pocket, and how much was handed over." Jia Yubian's shortcomings were exposed. He immediately jumped up and roared emotionally, "Don't just stand there and talk. It's easy for you to say that. Why don't you try managing the mines for a few days?" Those workers were usually lazy and didn't work. They even made all kinds of rude requests to the Jia clan. They were all shameless and unruly people. How can we not give them some pressure? Since Big Brother has said so, it would be impolite for me to refuse. I'll have to trouble you for a while. As long as you agree to hand over the management rights of the mine, I will immediately send someone down. I guarantee that they will do 100 times better job than Jia Yuqian. Jia Yuto immediately followed up, a cunning light flashing in his eyes. He had been waiting for Jia Yubian to say this. Jia Yubian had been eyeing the heavenly jade mine for a long time. There were only a few ancient sects, but the mine was a big cake. If he could occupy a corner, he would be able to gain a lot of benefits. You. Jia Yubian was stunned. He didn't expect Jia Yuto to climb up the pole. For a moment, he was so angry that his chest heaved and he couldn't even speak. Jia Jinyan always had an attitude of survival of the fittest when it came to the internal strife of the family. Therefore, he didn't interrupt until they reached a deadlock. He was about to speak and stop the two from quarreling. However, before he could speak, he heard the sound of the door opening. Everyone turned their heads and saw Jia Muzin leading Xiao Chen and the others in with his head held high and chest puffed out. He stared at Jia Yubian and Jia Yuto as if they were idiots, a disdainful smile appearing on his lips. It's a good thing that I didn't let you two be the patriarchs. What kind of good patriarchs do you think you two are? Sooner or later, the Jia clan will be completely defeated by you. I think you two might as well go out and fight. What's the point of talking like a girl here? Jia Muzin sneered. He never had a good impression of these two uncles, so he didn't have any good words to say. How dare you? Who do you think you are? Jia Muzin. Why is it you? Jia Yubian's back was facing the door, so he didn't see who the person was. He turned around and rolled up his sleeves while cursing. However, when he saw Jia Muzin standing there with his hands behind his back, he couldn't help but be surprised. Jia Yuto didn't say anything. His complexion was a bit ugly. Why did Jia Muzin suddenly come back? He had already prepared a secret weapon to let his son, Jia Tuyao, restrain Jia Huoyin and win the championship in one fell swoop. He didn't expect that there would be another competitor. Jia Jinyin, who was sitting in the middle of the conference table, was also a bit surprised. He gave Jia Muzin a meaningful look, then looked at Xiao Chen and the others behind him. His eyes flickered as if he was pondering about something. Xiao Chen received Jia Jinyin's sharp gaze, but he didn't fight back. Instead, he lowered his head and remained silent. After all, this was Jia Muzin's home ground. He couldn't be too noisy and steal the spotlight. Moreover, the few people present were obviously experts, especially that old patriarch who was even more immeasurable. It could be felt from his sharp eyes. Therefore, Xiao Chen didn't want to be too ostentatious, lest he and Jia Muzin got into unnecessary trouble. Hello, Grandpa. I took the liberty to come back. I hope Grandpa can forgive me. Jia Muzin first respectfully saluted Jia Jinyin. Jia Jinyin waved his hand, indicating that it was fine. Jia Muzin turned his head to Jia Yubian and Jia Yuto with a smile and said, "Uncles, you two continue to talk. Don't ruin the atmosphere because of my appearance."